Hi, I'm Sweetie Aboshi, serving you the first item on our order today, the AM News. Let's get straight into the details. Now, it was one of Ghana's most controversial tax policies, a levy that sparked protests, divided parliament, and forced many to rethink how they use mobile money. But now, the E-Levy is no more. Parliament has finally abolished the electronic transaction tax, ending 2 years of fierce debate. It now awaits the president's signature to come into effect. Emmanuel Jivenu takes us through the rise and the fall of the E-Levy.
It all began in November 2021 when the then Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta announced the electronic transfer levy as part of the 2022 budget.
Parliament, a 1.75% levy, as the Minister has mentioned. This is not the most egregious tax that you could get, but it really leads to the issue of inclusion of all of us to build our society and wherever we really want to go to transform this land.
But almost immediately, the bill was met with fierce opposition.
Banks are affected, telcos are affected, merchants are affected, consumers of telecom services are affected because their wallets will be taxed. So fundamentally, Mr. Speaker, where we stand, we vote against it.
In February 2022, thousands of Ghanaians took to the street to reject the levy.
So that is why we are out on the street, to deny the government the opportunity to officialize pickpocketing. Anything I want.
Then came one of Ghana's most chaotic nights in Parliament when MPs fiscally fought over the bill. Despite the resistance, the then MPP majority side passed the bill in March 2022, while the NDC staged a walkout.
This side, we don't support E-Levy. We will not support E-Levy. Count us out of it. They can proceed with whatever business they want to do. I thank you.
As soon as the E-Levy took effect in May 2022, its impact was immediate and severe. Mobile money transactions dropped by over 3 billion cedis in just a few months.
The first quarter of 2022, we've been able to do only 12.9 billion cedis currently. Obviously, we are not getting anything from E-Levy in the first quarter because it wasn't applicable here. E-Levy has been revised to 4.5%.
Even the government admitted it had overestimated how much the levy would generate. The NDC took the fight to the Supreme Court, arguing that the bill was passed unconstitutionally.
We intend to file to question the legitimacy of the decision of less than one half of members of Parliament taking a decision to approve E-Levy as second reading following our walkout.
However, the Supreme Court refused to block the levy, allowing it to continue. With revenue projections failing, the government reduced the tax rate from 1.5% to 1% in January 2023. But for many Ghanaians, the damage was already done. Traders were using cash instead of mobile money.
1.75 now body rate now. I'm hoping the percentage will be reduced to 1.0%. The E-Levy would affect our business as mobile money vendors. People will be forced not to transact with us, and that will make us unemployed. From electronics now called the old system cash and carry. The E-Levy won't help. Those at Parliament fighting for its introduction know what they would gain from it. They are only going to dupe us.
Fast forward to March 2025, Parliament has finally repealed the E-Levy.
We will abolish the electronic transfer levy, E-Levy of 1%.
Across the country, the news was met with celebrations.
So Ghana, I think the government is being truthful because before they came to power, they promised all Ghanaians that this is what they are coming to do if they are voted into power, and they have really done that.
I feel so excited because you can imagine if you want to send someone 1,000 Ghana cedis, you can imagine the amount of E-Levy they will take. So it is an excited news.
From mass protests to a controversial passage, economic shocks, and legal battles, the E-Levy experiment has ended. But as Ghana moves forward, the big question remains: how will government fill the revenue gaps? Emmanuel Jivenu, Joy News.
Now, it's worthy of note that the repeal, along with the removal of the betting tax and the emissions levy, fulfills a key NDC campaign promise and its 120-day social contract. The tax cuts embedded in the 2025 budget presented by Finance Minister Dr. Kasil Atuforsen signals a major shift in economic policy, with President Mahama expected to sign them into law. Ghana's fiscal landscape is set for a transformation. Here's how Parliament's historic vote unfolded.
Parliament has swung the legislative axe, slashing 3 major taxes in a move that reshapes Ghana's fiscal landscape. The House voted to repeal the E-Levy, betting tax and emissions levy, fulfilling a key pledge of the NDC's 2024 campaign. With John Mahama expected to sign them into law, this signals a seismic shift in economic policy. First, on the chopping block, a controversial E-Levy, a tax that sparked national debate and fights in Parliament. But after 2 years, the controversial tax is now on its way out.
The reason for repeal is to ensure that there is availability of additional disposable income to households and to reduce the tax burden on individuals. Mr. Speaker, if this is a reason why we are repealing the E-Levy, then E-Levy is 1%. Why don't we go and repeal VAT?
But if we pass this bill, the deduction will no longer take place and government will lose close to 2 billion Ghana cedis. But the 2 billion Ghana cedis that government is going to lose will now come to Ghanaians. So in effect, individual Ghanaians who ordinarily would have lost 2 billion Ghana cedis will now retain their 2 billion Ghana cedis.
Honourable members, the motion is adopted. The Electronic Transfer Levy Repeal Bill 2025 is now read the 3rd time. Yes, Majority Leader.
Then next, the emissions levy, the controversial charge on vehicle owners and industry.
Repeal of the emissions bill is that the committee observed that the government enacted the Emissions Levy Act 2023, Act 1112, to impose the emissions levy on carbon dioxide equivalent emissions. Mr. Speaker, the members of the committee were unanimous in recommending to this House to repeal this levy.
And finally, the betting tax, which triggered heated exchanges in Parliament.
Mr. Speaker, what we have done is that we have not only exempted or removed the tax on betting, but we have also removed the tax on gaming and also on lotteries, the everyday lotto. So, Mr. Speaker, it's 3 in 1 and it should not be construed that this tax is only removing taxes on betting. We've gone more than betting.
The minority leader wasted no time in making his position known.
What they are attempting to do is not new to this House. In 2017, when the Akufo-Addo government presented its first budget, there were a lot of taxes that were repealed. So if today they are here with some fewer amendments to our tax laws, well, we would want to encourage them to do more. We are aware that in their time, Kayaye was even taxed. We are aware.
Well, the next stop is now the desk of President John Mahama, who will now have to sign the bills into law before they take effect. Reporting for Joy News, Kweku Asante, Parliament House, Accra.
Interesting few days ahead of us on that regard. But moving on, some members of the African diaspora have renewed their pledge to support Africa's quest for reparatory justice. The African Union has dedicated this year to seeking justice for the long years of slavery and other forms of colonialism while promoting racial healing. In furtherance of this vision, the Accra Summit II, held in the Central Region, brought together members of the global African diaspora who pledged to heal from the past injustice of colonialism. There's more in this report.
A rich cultural display heralding Accra Summit II under the auspices of the Africa Transitional Justice Legacy Fund in partnership with the African Union Commission. Influencers from across Africa and the global African diaspora have converged in Ghana to advance the global push on reparatory justice. This is in line with African Union's theme for this year, which focuses on healing Africa from its dark past of colonialism.
That the African Union is looking and is also approaching reparation from a comprehensive perspective. That we are not leaving out reparation on the continent. And that is the reason why the African Union, with the support of organizations like MacArthur Foundation, Wellspring Foundation, and African Transitional Justice Legacy Fund, has been able to come up with a comprehensive continental transitional justice policy.
The African Union vision is being embraced by a number of organizations, including Reparations United and other partners who say that reparatory justice is necessary for the healing of the African world.
What does it mean to wipe out all consequences of 600 years of European aggression against African humanity? Does it look like leaving no trace of the harmful effects of the crimes? As reparation actors, we must begin all of our work with the full knowledge and understanding and acceptance that this is our purpose.
The injuries inflicted on us by Europeans has to be healed. It is absolutely essential. And so in that spirit of Harambe, as we move to achieve that goal, we have to ensure that a healed African people will not, shall not, let me say it again, will not, shall not replicate the behavior of those who have oppressed us.
Centering healing for Africans and the global African diaspora in the context of the African Union theme, organizers are hopeful that this year's conference will build on the successes of the past by treating the profound injuries to the bodies, minds, and spirits of the African people.
According to international norms for reparations, there are 5 components: cessation, guarantees of non-repetition, restitution, compensation, satisfaction, and rehabilitation. We wanted to use this conference to define rehabilitation for the African world as healing. And it's a multitude of processes and actions that are necessary for us to be healed in the truest sense. So this conference is to put together or come together as a group of international players, international actors with international intentions on how to remove the legacy of enslavement on the minds and consciousness of the African world. So.
She fought through the agony of breast cancer 2 years ago, hoping for a fresh start. But just as life seemed normal again, another cruel battle began. 30-year-old midwife Yayurame Ibrahim Mahama is now fighting for her life against brain cancer, and she needs 300,000 Ghana cedis for life-saving treatment. Joy News' Grace Irama Akwa visited her at home and reports.
She has spent her life caring for others, bringing life into the world. But today, Mariama Yayuram Ibrahim, a midwife, fights for her own survival. A battle against a disease that has drained her strength, her finances, and her hope.
Midwifery, I can't tell, but it has just been there for a very long time. So I didn't have any specific reason as a child by then. when I grew, I realized I just wanted to do it. It's a noble profession. I was actually at work when it came, and at our place too, we don't have network, so you have to go to a network area to check. So I was actually anxious whilst I was even trying to download it. When it came, when I was able to download and I saw it, I was like, really? So I have to go and recheck, go back to my books that malignant and benign. Benign is the one which is not cancerous. Malignant is, so I was like, oh, am I the one confused? Because that was not what I was expecting. So I told myself that I have to eat and take good care of myself. If they say this, I shouldn't let it weigh me down. I took food and I started eating. I took the first one. That was when tears started rolling in my face.
That was 2 years ago. A breast cancer diagnosis that would lead her through a maze of chemotherapy, surgery, and endless pain. But just when she thought the worst was behind her,
if I can't raise my arm too, he was thinking it was a nerve-related problem. But because I can't raise the arm on the same side, then it would be brain-related. So I should rather do a head CT scan. So and I told him that this is what has happened, but actually I was supposed to come and do a radiotherapy for the breast. And he said, oh, okay. So what is happening now is that it has spread to my brain. That was when I started crying. The first one, all those times, I didn't cry like that. But for that one, I cried, and he introduced the clinical psychologist to counsel me and all that.
the chemotherapy was brutal. It stole her hair, her strength, her independence. The nausea, the excruciating pain, the darkened nails. She endured it all. But the hardest part was not the physical suffering.
For the breast cancer treatment, we went through a lot. But because it was every 3 weeks, at least by the time the month will end, your salary will come, your family will also support you in a way. Finances at this point, I don't know what to say. Because right now, with this treatment, that's the only problem we have.
£20,000. That's what stands between Mariama and a fighting chance.
My sister is somebody who likes helping others, and she wants to go back to her work. At times when we go to the hospital and she see others wearing the uniform, she will just call me, sister. Hey, so I was also like this. I want to come back and save life. Please help us, Ghanaian. Help us with your donation. We want to save our sister's life. She just started, she's just 30 years. She's too young for this. Please, Ghanaian, we are pleading with you. Help us.
At all. This is not me. My face is not like this. This is all from the chemotherapy. And it's even changed my skin complexion. First, it's peeled off and became yellow. It's now coming back a little because I've been off treatment for quite some time. I'm bloated. I had sores on my body that I have to treat. A lot of things were just coming in. My vision too is disturbed. I forget things easily. I can be holding something and it falls from my hand. So I just want to plead with anybody that God will touch their hearts. We can afford.
Mariama clings to hope, but with each passing day, it slips further from her grasp. She waits, but time will not wait for her. For Joy News, Grace Aqua.
Help Mariama. This is an appeal to please do so. The numbers are on your screen, so take a picture so that you don't forget to help her. And in other stories, Benis Na, Executive Director of AFCHAD, is urging women in the Upper West region to take on leadership roles, emphasizing their impact on decision-making and society. She spoke during a skills training for over 100 women in Sapare, Dafiam, Buzie, Issa district. And Joy News' Rafiq Salam reports from Dafiama.
The skills training was organized by the Queen Mother of the Sapare community in collaboration with the Africa Center for Human Rights and Sustainable Development, AFSAD, and funded by the Netherlands, EOF, under the Girls and Women Economic Empowerment and Leadership Project, GIWEL. The training brought together over 100 women from different fields to learn soap and pastry making in the Dafima Bure Issa district of the Upper West region. The trainees were taken through the process of making bar and liquid soaps, asthma blows, and meat pies. In an interview with Joy News, the executive director of AFSAD, Benis Na, called on women in the Upper West region to actively participate in leadership at all levels.
We are sensitizing them to be interested in participating in spaces where their decisions are made about them, because if they are part of that space, then they can make meaningful contributions that will benefit not just the women but the entire society. So we are also using this platform to sensitize the women to be interested in participating in even unit committee, at the unit committee level, at the district assembly, and also the community leadership level. They should be interested in participating.
Queen Mother of the Sapare community, Ponangman Male, noted that economic hardship and the high unemployment rate motivated her to provide the women with a skills training.
So the problem is the unemployment, economic difficulties. You all know what is happening in the country. Even those who are employed, they are facing challenges. It's not enough. Somebody even if you are employed, you still need to do something else to support what you are doing, because what you earn at the end of the month is not enough. And then worst of it all, some don't even do anything at all. They don't have anything apart from farming. And you know the way the rain is very erratic. So they'll farm, it won't rain, and they won't get anything. But you will still have to bath anyway. You will still have to wash your clothes anyway, whether you have food to eat or not. So I think that this is a very good program for them to enable them to actually generate some income for themselves.
Business Update is next with Benjamin Akapo.
Now to the stories. Tax consultant Francis Timoriboy has welcomed the bill passed by Parliament to abolish the electronic transaction levy and other taxes. Speaking to Joy Business, Mr. Timoriboy, however, called for the restructuring of the value-added tax to cater for the expected revenue shortfalls as a result of the abolition of these taxes.
Yes, so I think today is a great day for anybody who is concerned with formalizing an economy like our own. It is a great day for a cash-light society. If you are interested, you go to some advanced countries, they don't use cash. In that case, you can track what actually the economic activities are. From the one when the E-Levy was passed, for example, all the assumptions were wrong. We were told that we're going to rake in so much money, over 11 billion. We're told that we're not going to IMF. All of these things never came to pass. So far, I think we raised a little bit close to 4 billion Ghana cedis. So I was happy that the two main political parties saw the mistake they did and they all promised scrapping it. Today, we've seen the scrapping. We are happy that digitalization agenda will now continue. We now want to formalize the economy the more. So we're waiting for the VAT reform. Overall, we have seen that the way we have structured our VAT is not efficient. It's no wonder if you take 36 African countries, Ghana is performing poorly. I mean, I think we are the least when it comes to VAT, contribution to our total revenue. Whilst even Togo is doing 42%, we are doing just 18%. So the VAT reform is expected to, free businesses so that we can see real expansion and then tax them appropriately. Again, the mining sector, the 1% to 3%, we expect that to bring in some money. But overall, they are going to embark on serious tax education. They are also going to embark on full compliance. Few people in Ghana pay direct taxes. So I think that if we do this one, we can easily close the gap.
Now, the Ghana Institution of Engineering is calling for strict adherence to structural engineering principles in the design and construction of billboards across the country. According to the institution, the recent increment in billboard collapses during heavy rainfall highlights the need for a more robust approach to billboard design and construction. Speaking to Joy Business, President of the Ghana Institution of Engineering, Engineer Kwabna Bempong, urged billboard owners, advertisers, and regulatory bodies to prioritize public safety by ensuring that billboards are designed and constructed to withstand the forces of nature.
So this is very, very simple insofar as I'm concerned. And a lot of the time we try to use common sense, but this is not just common sense. This is engineering. And that is why we need to have structural engineering taking the forefront in the design of such structures. A lot of the time we have shallow foundations. And let me just bring your minds to something. Whenever you have structures like this, the wind sometimes creates suction. So we are going to have upward forces. And that upward force, if it does not have enough weight to counterbalance it, it's going to come, and we can see roofs, a whole roof, including the members, timber members or steel members, can be lifted by the wind, transported, and then deposited somewhere else. And this is something else. So as we go along, I think that we would have to prefer solutions. And this is something that we have done in the past, especially with the MMDAs, because they are the ones who approve the construction of these outside structures for advertisement.
Well, our business update is done and dusted. Back to you, Sweetie Abochi.
Thanks, Ben. And that wraps it for the AM News Bulletin on the AM Show. A gentle reminder, though, that the AM Show is sponsored by Waylead Properties. Coming up next is News Review. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Welcome aboard the News Review segment on the AM Show, which is sponsored by Waylead Properties. Question: are you thinking of a rewarding investment you can engage in? Waylead Company Limited is your preferred choice for such investment. Waylead Company Limited is a real estate company with several developments to its credit here in Accra. You want to invest in our Willow Lane development where elegance meets tranquility in the heart of Accra. And we provide quality housing at an affordable cost and also with a flexible payment option. At Waylead Properties, we provide you 24-hour security, reliable power supply, and many other social amenities to make your stay a memorable one. Why don't you give us a call now? 0240 111 119 or 0504 499 999. You can also visit our website www.waylead.org for more information. Ben tells you more.
Well, we do know that every year thousands of Ghana's brightest minds flock away from our country. They seek better prospects abroad, leaving a gap in our workforce. The question: how can Ghana inspire its talent to stay right here? Well, we invite you to join David Ofosu-Dorte, Professor Mary Setrana, and Her Excellency Dr. Amina Gurib Fakim, former president of Mauritius, at the 12th edition of the Ishmael Yamson and Associates Business Roundtable to discuss managing the talent exodus and leveraging private-public partnerships for growth. The date, the 7th of May 2025 at the Labadi Beach Hotel. The time, 9 a.m. To register, just text your name and organization to 0530 117 202 or shoot a message to info@ieyamson.com. Joining us for a conversation this morning, we have Clement Abedu, Executive Director, Africa Center for Environment and Sustainability, and of course, Nanayao Sapong. He's with the Movement for Change. Gentlemen, good morning.
Good morning.
All right, so we have a bit of a ritual here. When you come on board, we allow you about a minute and a half to talk about something that is very close to you, something that you'd like to delve into. But to set the pace, I would like Nanayao, since he's been coming here, to set an example. Nanayao.
Take the lead and let's go. I like the jacket.
Thank you. This is the second time.
We'll talk about
you remind me of an incident way back. You remember when there was that street carnival?
Yeah.
Oxford Street.
Way
back when. And someone saw this person's outfit. was like, oh, I like it. And the guy was like, the guy actually started taking it off. You just reminded me of that. Anyway,
yes. Good morning to our viewers. Now I'm part of the team.
You're welcome.
Yes. A sad incident that happened during, I think, 2 days ago when there was a little storm at the ANC Mall and other places. And off my office stretch around the Nyaho, there was also another incident of a very huge...
In the Nyaho Hospital area.
Of that stretch. And so I would want to encourage our NADMO and fire service agency to be on the look when the storms and the rains are coming. And also, as citizens or individuals, we need to also take some precautions. At this time, you do not have to park your cars under trees and under certain shades that you are not so much sure of how safe they are. And if your insurance is also gone, please go and renew it, because these unforeseen circumstances and that are not, you cannot predetermine when they occur. It brings a lot of hardship. Okay, and so we should take those precautions and ensure that our environments and drains are very much clear and can accommodate the little rains that would come. This is just what I have.
And just to add to that, you remind me of once as well, sometime last year. You remember when the airport...
yes.
The what do they call that place? I think St. Michael.
Yes.
I think it's a rental service. And a lot of these vehicles have been impacted. I was there personally. On that day, the cantonments stretch, where you have parks and gardens, DVLA, a tree had fallen, injured a bike rider. It had fallen on a 4x4 Land Cruiser and others. And these things are...
Take precautions, because the winds are going to be strong. I think somewhere at the beginning of the year, the Meteorological Service predicted that the winds will be stronger. So we just have to take...
I think even yesterday they mentioned there will be some more rain. So we all have to be on the lookout. Okay, for you.
Yes, very good morning to your cherished viewers. I think that I will start from where Nana ended, because, of course, coming from an environmental background, issues of environmental risk is something that is very dear to my heart. And yes, talking about the Meteorological Agency, talking about the wind and all the expectations that we should look forward to as far as the natural resource risks are concerned. I think that I want to admonish all of us as Ghanaians to be very mindful of the kind of environments that we live in now. Our attitude is very important. We are talking about drainage. What are we doing as a people in terms of waste disposal? What are we doing in terms of ensuring that our communities are resilient when it comes to these environmental impacts that we face? So it's something that, for me, everybody must be very conscious about and do the needful to ensure that we ourselves as people, that we are safe, our environment is safe, and of course, our communities are very safe. Climate change is something that we talk about every day, and these are real issues. We should expect more, harmful or more impactful rainfall patterns. We should expect more, a lot of changes in terms of our weather conditions. And so if we consider these predictions or these issues into our daily lives, our daily planning, our daily activities, I believe strongly that we'll be able to mitigate, or if not manage, adapt to some of these issues that we have. But I think the second thing I want to add briefly is yesterday in the night, I was driving around La to Teshi. Now, that stretch. And at that time, at around 11 p.m., I realized that there was no street light. There was not, the street was very dark. Okay, and I was very saddened. We have a military base here, and all sort of activities going on around, the Laboma Beach and all the entertainment centers that we have, and you find such a long stretch so dark. What are the security implications? And for me, it was something that I feel we need to really do something about it as a people.
That stretch for a long time, and even traffic lights.
Then that is
traffic lights on that stretch.
That's actually my favorite stretch to the house.
Okay.
But you see, my problem is we do not have to rely on government for almost all of these things.
Yeah.
Now, there are a lot of businesses on that stretch that are making a lot of money.
Yeah.
True.
What is the assembly doing about it? Are you not able to approach these businesses and then at least make them themselves, all right, procure these street lights, even if it is 2 each of these businesses? Let them procure and maintain it by themselves. Because aside we those who are using the stretch, it is also going to give them good attention. It's going to brighten the area. The security is there. The security is, they have an engineering section.
Exactly.
And I do not think that engineering section has not got those in charge of electricals. All right. Are they not able to be innovative? They themselves as the military, do they not have a budget? Can they not include this in their budget and take care of it? How much would it cost them? You understand me? And you see, across the other side is where they are shooting ranges.
Yeah. Yeah.
Across the other side is where they are shooting ranges. So they should take it up. They shouldn't just go and rely on it. The assembly and the security agencies on that stretch should be able to come together to sort the street light.
You know, you bring something to mind right before we get into the papers. And I don't have a paper this morning, so I'll do some online portals. But you see how in churches sometimes there are renovation works or this and that. And I know one other mother of mine, one of my former parishes, the gate, the main entry to the church, right? Not outside, inside, wood, solid wood and all of that. She donated. Sometimes you would have people donate pews. These things are expensive. I think it's high time as a people as well. We came to ask ourselves, how patriotic am I? Am I going to wait for a buying for everything? Indeed, the state must do some of these things. The state must. But in the end, if it's not coming, will I also say, because it's not coming in 2 years, 3 years, there are accidents on a stretch and all of that. So like you said, a big business.
Yes, it brings big.
Because from Sandbox to, and there I went, to all of these ones on this stretch.
Traffic light there, down. There are a lot of businesses, and they do so well.
So if there's some consensus and you decide, and I agree, the district assemblies could lead, and we decide, okay, you this business, can we have a situation where you are contributing 3 street lights?
Realistic prices.
Realistic prices. Nothing exorbitant.
Realistic prices.
Obia, you on the stretch. Let's do 2 here, 3 there. I'm sure by... And just a quick follow-up on the situation with the DCs and all of that. Now, we know DCs have been appointed. At least it's good that...
They've been nominated.
Yes.
I think for 8 regions.
Yes.
Yeah, for 8 regions, yeah.
And hopefully they get cleared. I don't know whether the ones, some of those for these areas you mentioned will be in the picture as well. I've not taken a full look at them. But the district assembly's common fund is another thing we ought to look at, how quickly it gets to them. And maybe it can help in some of these activities as
You see,
well.
the common fund, they come in trenches and they come for specific purposes.
Indeed.
You understand?
Indeed.
And what I'm suggesting is us going beyond the means and beyond the normal scope, the normal way of doing business. You understand? Even the link routes in some of the areas, it is the approach. It is the approach. If you approach my business and my entity and you tell me that, you know what, from this point to that point, we need 3 street light poles. It is going to cost us 50,000 cedis. You understand? Now, this is where you can procure it. These are our engineers who are ready to fix it from the VRA or from wherever that they are doing it. Once it is ready, let us know. Get us the poles. This is what we are also going to contribute. Let us fix it. People are willing to do it. If you drive on the Spintex road, there are a lot of businesses, all right, that once it is in front of their business and they are going to benefit directly as human beings as we are, we would want to do it. But the problem would be when you want me to give you the money as the assembly to go and procure. I won't do that.
Sweetie, I think one interesting thing as you get into the Ghanaian Times would be that, like he's saying, You want to see the thing in action, like we've been saying about taxes. We want to see our taxes if we see them working. But the other bit too would be responsibility. If you put it there, trust me, the person who invested those 50,000 or whatever to put those 3 there will be monitoring to ensure that the thing is working. So it would create a more responsible society.
Let me just come in with some. Yesterday, I was reviewing a document talking about the need for us to legislate corporate social responsibilities of companies. And I'm happy.
Regulate?
Yes, regulate. And I'm happy he mentioned, you mentioned the businesses around these areas. You see, the businesses need to understand their roles in building or developing communities. I mean, imagine these entertainment centers that we have around the stretch. I mean, the Teshi Strait that we talked about. And then let's say someone is stabbed out from the darkness, or an incident happened which negatively affects the image of the company or the organization. What effect does it have in terms of patronage? Okay, so businesses must understand their responsibility in ensuring that some of these problems are solved. If there is a need, if we have trust issues and the need for us to have a more comprehensive collaboration or a strategy to ensure that, okay, money comes in, or we can do it ourselves, but in collaboration with, for example, the assembly engineers or those who matter. I mean, there should be some kind of a system, a framework where these problems can be addressed with these partners or stakeholders fully involved, getting involved.
Well, thank you, gentlemen. That leaves us just about 20 minutes or less for the newspapers. It's interesting how time flies when we sit here for the news review. But let me start. I'll blaze through the Ghanaian Times newspaper, and then I'll come to you the stories that pique your interest. We can reflect on that. President named 72 DCEs in 8 regions, pending approval by assemblies. Ghana Traditional Council bans drumming, noise making in Gamashi, May 12th to June 11th. Aduma has started, or will start in May. Parliament approves abolition of E-Levy. That's not the only one. When we get into the paper, we'll read a bit of details there for you. Ghana ranks high in labor, utility services, business insolvency, according to the World Bank report 2025. And so I want to start from Parliament passing that repeal bill for the E-Levy, the betting tax and emissions levy. So Parliament yesterday passed the electronic transaction levy repeal bill 2025, effectively abolishing the controversial tax on electronic transactions. And gentlemen, I know we are eager to get a bite at this. Let me just add some headlines quickly and then I'll come to you. There's a story about conflict resolution, a Ghanaian perspective in the context of Africa. Ministry of Communications has inherited 6 billion Ghana cedi debt. The Ministry of Communications, Digital Technology and Innovation has inherited a debt portfolio exceeding 6 billion Ghana cedis, with some key agencies operating a near empty bank balance, according to the Sector Minister, Sam Nate George. And in addition to that, when I come to you, can reflect on that sack. He says he's released about 100 people more because, you know, they were appointed or employed after December 7th, and he's committed to streamlining the ministry, operating a lean government, etc. Former V. Baumia visits a Doom Blue Light fire outbreak. President Mahama is talk and do leader, according to Ayariga. And President acts on petition to remove Chief Justice, begins consultation with Council of State. Ghana Traditional Council bans drumming, noise making in Gamashi, May 12th to June 11. Let me just get a bit of details out there for our cherished audience. The Ghana Traditional Council yesterday announced the annual ban on drumming and noise making in Gamashi from 12th May to June 11th, 2025. And that month-long ban prohibits clapping of hands, placement of loudspeakers outside church premises and mosques, roadside evangelism, use of megaphones, loudspeakers, tambourines and other musical instruments, both outside and indoors during the period. So please take note. And of course, the story about the president naming 72 DCEs in 8 regions is also here. And then I'll end here. Ghana ranks high in labor, utility services, business insolvency, according to the World Bank report 2025. Ghana performed creditably in areas such as labor, utility services, and business insolvency in 2024. The latest World Bank Group Business Ready Report 2024 has revealed. Gentlemen, I want to start with you, Nanaya Sapon. Which of these stories first speaks to your interest? And of course, there's a story here. I heard it in the newsroom yesterday. Yes, about helping, or now our efforts to curb drug abuse, focusing on opioids, RED, you know.
Yeah,
the ministry... The Ministry of Youth Development and Empowerment has launched an initiative to stem the rising tide of substance abuse among the youth, dubbed Ghana Against Drug, GAD. RED means stop. So that's a nice way to put it. Yeah. Instead of putting RED as a way of encouraging people to try it out, RED means stop, don't indulge. Nana Asapom, pick two of these stories and let's reflect.
Oh, two. There are a lot of stories. Anyway, that is an interesting one. Yeah. I think that the future of our young men, myself included, I'm a very young man, drugs has become something else. And because of the amount of revenue that people get out of it, the amount of money that these individuals who sell them get out of it, difficult to fight it. It's more like a syndicate. It's an organized thing. And if you would want to fight it, what you need to do is a step that the Minister for Youth is taking, is to actually have a way to educate the end user, is to educate the person who is patronizing it, and to make the person understand the effect, both short and long term, that it has on the person. And so when people have stopped patronizing it, that is where the importers and the sellers and that organized group would also stop selling them. But once they get to know that the tablet, or whichever form it comes, is now identified and people are pushing to stop the use of it, then they find another beautiful, innovative way to repackage it and to present it back to society. Yeah. It started from tramadol.
Right.
And they found a way we were able to fight tramadol, banning it from over-the-counter sales and all of it. And then it came to this RED thing. And what I am anticipating is this. You know, this one, they put it in energy drinks and other drinkables, consumables. So what I'm thinking is that the next form that it would come more in a liquid form, in a more attractive alcoholic or energy drink.
We do have those. I don't want to mention the name, but the one particular drink I hear is it can't be just alcohol.
So I am just trying to draw the attention of the authorities that some of these beverages and alcoholic substances on our shelves should be taken a look at, and so that they do not repackage this RED thing into those. The other issue I would want to take a look at is the announcement of the MMDCs that have been nominated by the I think that is the local government minister that submitted the letter. I don't know what went into the vetting processes, but sweetie, it is time that the MMDCs that we nominate, we look beyond the political colors into actually bringing people who understand the proper system of governance and leadership at the local government level. They should not just be seen as people who see themselves as president's representative and going there to do just politics. They should be able to, we should come to a point where before you are nominated as an MMDC, you should be able to present to the committee a strategic plan that you have developed out of your own party's manifesto, all right? How you would want to position your district assembly or municipal or metro assembly, how you want to position it. You should be able to give yourself targets. I think that there are some of these people that when you even ask them the unemployment rate within their district, the strategic product or produce within the district that they can take advantage of, if you would ask them what they need for their assembly to develop, they will not be able to tell you.
And just to come in briefly, these people, per the Constitution, are the presidents, if you like, special representatives in those districts. If you also like, you could even refer to them as micro-presidents.
Yes, they are.
At the district level, which means that if the district fails, it means that DCE or that MCE,
somebody once
that
told
is, if
me,
the district or municipality
somebody
fails,
once told me
they have
that
failed.
to be given a deputy ministerial position, he would prefer to be an MMDC. Why? Because he has a budget to control. You see, they are in charge of the development of the area, and the entire country is big. So we have decided to break it into smaller units, and you are given this small unit to manage. You should be able to understand the developmental leadway for your people. And you see, if you take the Auditor General's reports from these assemblies and you look into what happens in these assemblies, you would marvel.
Yeah.
A lot of the, for lack of a better expression, the chop that happens in government starts from the district assemblies.
Right.
All right. And so we should get to a point where these persons who are nominated understand what development is as a leader. Now, the very last one I would want to touch on is the issue of the conflict. You mentioned something about conflict, and then it talked about looking at it from the African perspective. And I've always said that I believe in the school of thought that says that conflicts are not resolved, all right, but they are managed.
Right, that's actually an editorial.
Yes,
conflict resolution, a Ghanaian perspective
in the context of Africa. So we need to be able to understand the people, understand the source and the cause of the conflict. Most of the times when conflict happens, people just zoom in and begin to write stories and begin to lay allegations, and we want to solve it from the top. We need to dig deep into the issues and understand it from the people's perspective.
Okay. Mr. Baidu, your take now. Which of these stories are you reflecting on?
Yes, I think I would touch briefly on the district assembly. I mean, the MMDCs who have been nominated.
Gentlemen, so in about 6-7 minutes we have to go. So I'm sorry, but we have to.
That's okay.
Go straight for
that's okay. I think the one key thing that I want to mention here is yesterday I tried to, look at the distribution of the sex. We will call it gender. So yes, and interestingly, yes, I think it's not even up to 5%, if I should say, very minimal, and it was quite worrying for me. Look, development at this stage of our lives in this country, women play very key roles, and especially at the local level. You see, when you talk of poverty at the local community level, women are more vulnerable. When you talk of economic opportunities, women have critical issues. Almost all the indicators of developmental discussions, women have a special case to give. So I was expecting really that, a fair, good representation of women are nominated as far as these MMDCs are concerned. But I mean, the president has some other regions, about 8 more to nominate. Hopefully, more women will be represented. I mean, kudos to the president. We all know that he's done very well. We have a vice president who is a woman and some key positions which have been given to women. But decentralization at this stage, is very key on our development agenda. And so, if we really want to bring development down to the people, as we want to believe, we need to get a fair representation, and women must be represented really, so that their issues and problems can be well echoed at the local and of course the national level. And let me also touch briefly on the red issue. I'm happy the ministry is looking at a broader sensitization program. Fact is this: if you even decide to sensitize these young men on the use of red, you are only telling them that red is not good, but what about the rest? Really, there are so many other options that they can or they are resorting to as far as their agenda or whatever reason they are taking these drugs are concerned. So for me, there's really the need for us to have a well-planned approach in terms of how we can educate our the young men and women, for them to understand really the drug abuse that we learned in GHS and SHS, the causes and effects, we need to go back and really make it more practical. It should be contextualize it within their lives, let them understand the impact of these activities on their lives and their future. If you focus so much on red because now it is the thing of the day, by the time you realize they have shifted their focus on something else, and then it has to be. So we need a very comprehensive approach here so that we don't lose our human resources in the future. I mean, our human resource base in this country, the youth are dominant, and so if we are losing them, then what happens in the next generation? So it's something that I think the ministry should have a real look at it and develop a good plan, well thought of plan, and then see how we can change the situation.
Okay, so let's do the headlines of your papers, and then Ben will go to the online portal, I think. And this is the Daily Democrat.
Yes, Daily Democrat. NACOC naps British citizen with cannabis, and Edubuahin's 7 million scandal. AG on the move. Fuel stations operate 24 hours. Edugi calls for security agencies support. I would want to touch on two of them because we've done with the cannabis as part of the red we just discussed. Edubuahin's 7 million scandal. This is an organized crime, in my view. All right, this is an organized crime, and where it interests me is an individual's ability to, on daily basis, make withdrawals as much as 7 million Ghana cedis. And so whichever banks those transactions took place, those banks should be interrogated. I know, but for a fact that when you are making withdrawals beyond a certain amount on daily basis, at least you would be questioned.
Yesterday, Professor Ayamga was saying that the lack of sophistication is what he was peeved about, that he was expecting that there will be some serious level of sophistication to commit a crime like this, but it looks like it was so easy. And
yes, it would be easy. We don't, our compliance policies are so empty. All right, so I think the banks should also be interrogated. It cannot be just him that went to the bank to make those withdrawals. Those managers, those operational managers, and clients, whatever, they should all be interrogated.
In fact,
there should be reasons.
Dr. Ayeni was saying that they have the contact or the bank details of everyone who money was sent to from that particular account, and so they are tracking them.
Well, they can track, but if it was a donation, but they're very.
Mr. Beidou, let's get into your paper then.
Yes, my front page, the New Republic. It talks about same issue, the Signal Gate scandal. It says James Bond's lawyer coup foiled. Attaches Fury as 32 more scramble for booty.
James Bond?
Yes.
So who's James Bond?
Attache is
James Bond here.
Or is Edubuahin that is referred to as James Bond?
No, James Bond lawyer. So yes, Edubuahin is James Bond. Yes.
Ah, well. The New Republic have interesting ways of putting their headlines. Yeah.
But reading the details, really, basically, it's looking at the fact that some lawyers are availing themselves to support James Bond, as the New Republic captions it. Yeah. And for me, reading through, it clearly tells you also that most of the lawyers are NPP affiliated. And that is where I have a problem, really. You see, in this country, we are politicizing everything. When there's a crime, there's a crime. The law...
At this point, alleged crime.
Alleged crime. Yeah. The law must be allowed to follow its course, due course. When we begin to politicize these issues, now it becomes a fight NPP as against NDC. And you know what that means? We tend to polarize the whole thing, and then even when judgments are made, it'll be like, okay, NDC people are trying to, fight against NDC, those kind of things. And it doesn't help us as a state, as a country, because we need the laws to work. If somebody has done the wrong thing, it must be treated as such. It's wrong, irrespective of your political colors. And for me, that is what I have a problem with as far as this side of the story is concerned.
All right. Ben, I think you have the last minutes.
I'm not going to have time to do any papers, but a quick, interesting bit on his bit. He was a deputy there, I hear, and that's why I find it interesting that the sort of political card is being played, because he was a deputy there. And mind you, I keep saying that if you look at his CV, he actually deserved to be in the position.
From 2007.
He was. So he was there through the years.
2007. Through the ranks.
From many administrations before Akufo-Addo. And he was elevated. Should we politicize it because he came in 2007? Because he served through the MPP, NDC, NPP, and this happened. But at the same time, should we shield people based on, no one is saying he's done wrong, but if it is proven, like Vincent Eko, as if we're the Pankono Otafo MP sat here and said, he found it scary, and he felt if it was proven that wrong had been done, no NPP person should defend him. We shouldn't defend what is wrong if it is proven to be wrong. If it is wrong and we pretend it is right, how then do we mean to develop our country? But what I want to leave you gentlemen with, there's this bit, I believe, by the Interior Minister in respect of fuel prices that could have a little levy in there so that we can help the fire service, in terms of equipping them. Only yesterday we were talking about the E-Levy and others being scrapped. What do you make of that?
When I read it,
30 seconds.
When I read it, I thought differently. I think that we should be able to introduce the sheriff system where we can commit private sector into some of these avenues. You understand me? So that if I am a private person and I have the capacity, then I am able to have a fire service, modern equipment and everything. And then we should be able to put together or bring together the NADMO and the fire service to form a stronger disaster management agency. You understand? Because at every disaster, the first point of call should not be the police, but should rather be the fire service and the disaster management team. You understand? So they should be able to come together. Because I'm joining that to what Eduji is proposing, that 4 stations to operate 24 hours, and that he's going to speak to the security agencies for their support. You cannot run a 24-hour economy without certain infrastructure, which includes security, and for this matter, by extension, fire management agency. You understand? So there should be an innovative way. It should just not be a leviathan.
Right.
Yes, I will start from where you ended. It should not be a leviathan, but really, the point is, our states, we are pampering our state institutions well so much. I think that they are sleeping. They are not being innovative enough. Look, fire service, there are so many businesses that they can do to generate money for themselves and fund their activities, and not necessarily having to fall on the taxpayer all the time. There are lots of organizations who need health and safety training or emergency training and those kind of things. The fire service, for example, can make a lot of business out of this area, for example, and generate a lot of revenue for themselves. So,
IGFs.
Yes, IGF. So I think that enough of these approaches. It's more of a lazy man's approach. The institutions should start thinking. The institutions should start being more innovative to see how they can, out of their services. These are very exceptional area. They are unique services. Okay. If you go to the mines, for example, they need a lot of this training. They need a lot of safety staff, and they are ready to pay. So if
that's actually a very good point.
Yes, if private businesses are doing this and getting money, why can't the fire service?
So we have to go, but the counter likely would be how many such institutions are even willing. Actually, if you look at the spate of fires in Ghana, you would realize that many companies, many institutions don't care until there's a disaster. How many would actually want to procure the services of the fire service? How much would they raise from?
So they should make it compulsory. They should make it compulsory.
The president is giving a directive that state-owned enterprises should make profits, or they will be privatized. There will be some review and all that. So I think that what you said about them being pampered, perhaps let's observe and see if this directive by the president will shake things up.
It should.
But that's our time for the news review segment. But before we go, Ghana, let's talk about water tanks. Do you know the secret to real water storage? It's simple. If your tank doesn't have the tortoise on it, then it's not the correct tank. That's right. The tortoise tank, Syntex tank, is a champion of water tanks. It is strong and durable and built to handle our Ghanaian weather. So whether rain or shine, Syntex tank has got your back. So my people, go outside, check your tank, and if it doesn't have the tortoise on it, it's time to upgrade. Join the Syntex tank family today and enjoy water storage that's tough like a tortoise. Give us a call now, 0244 335 168 to buy now or find one of over 400 agents nationwide. You can also shop online though at syntexgh.com. Syntex tank, a strong, a tough.
My question to you, are you ready to dream, dare and deliver in the world of IT? Well, look no further than the Jackson Institute of Technology. That's JIT, the only NIIT authorized training center in Ghana. At JIT, we provide world-class IT training for individuals and corporate organizations like yours, equipping you with industry-relevant skills in software development, cybersecurity, networking, cloud computing, artificial intelligence, digital marketing, and more. We offer globally recognized certifications, practical job-ready training, and flexible hybrid learning options, which allows you to study online or on-site. Our expert instructors ensure hands-on learning experiences that prepare you for success in today's digital world. Conveniently located on the Ring Road near Circle in the heart of Accra Central Business District and in Kumasi at the Jackson Educational Complex headquarters, Ayediasen near the KNUST. It's easy to find. JIT provides easy access for students and corporate clients. Our state-of-the-art auditorium is also available for corporate events, seminars, and training sessions. Pick up your phone, note these numbers down to call or WhatsApp. 0596 996 037. You can also reach us on 0596 996 038 or 0552 714 635. The website www.jit.edu.gh. JIT, your gateway to a thriving IT career. We give way now for sports. Up next, but the guest who joined us, Clement Abedu, Executive Director, Africa Center for Environmental Sustainability, and of course, Nayal Sapon, he is with the Movement for Change. AM Show is brought to you courtesy of Waylead Properties. Sports is up next with Haruna Mubarak. Stay.
Welcome back. This is the AM Show, sponsored by Waylead Properties, and we want to take a look at the passage of that repeal bill for the E-Levy, emissions tax, and the tax on bet winnings. My guest helping us get perspective on this issue, Professor Lord Mensah is an economist, and Eric Amponsah-Boateng is a tax consultant. Professor Lord Mensah, good morning to you.
Good morning. If you can hear me loud and clear.
Yes, you're very clear. And I want to try and see if...
Good morning to our viewers out there.
Good morning. Mr. Eric Amponsah, good morning to you. Just checking your microphone. Yeah, great.
Good morning to your viewers and listeners. And I'm grateful to be on the show.
Thank you. I want to start with you, Professor Lord Mensah. When you look at the controversies and issues surrounding this E-Levy, in fact, how it even came to be, the passage, the fight in Parliament, the shortfalls in the revenue that the government thought they would be making from it, and now it's on its way out. How did this news come to you? I know many Ghanaians heaved a sigh of relief, but how did it come to you?
Yeah, so from where I sit, it has to do with the dynamics of the economy. I mean, we've had government that was more or less emphasizing more on revenue generation, and in the end, throwing some, tax handles to ensure that they generate more to manage the economy. But then also another government comes in and they have realized that no, with this kind of taxes, more or less businesses are suffering, households are more or less, suffering. And in the end, the economy is not getting that kind of enough disposable income to operate as expected. And so they find it deem it fit, to remove it, at this time. But then also we ask ourselves, if this, tax handle is removed, how is the government going to fill it? But then also, if you study the dynamics over the years, E-Levy, was introduced with all sorts of expectations. One of them being, money for road maintenance and other things. But clearly, you drive on our roads, and out of E-Levy, we even remove road tolls, and you drive on our roads, and clearly you will see that we still have the potholes that our cars go through. And so if you look at it carefully, you have to ask yourself whether the E-Levy has come to benefit, Ghanaians, or it has one way or the other, come to increase the suffering of, Ghanaians. And clearly, if you look at it carefully, you will comfortable. I'm a Ghanaian, and I also drive on our roads and other things that I do in the country, and also how its impact on my disposable income and then the ordinary person on the street. Clearly, it tells you that E-Levy has not come to serve the purpose that, is supposed to, serve. And so a new administration has come in, thinking that, look, E-Levy, looking at it carefully, it's not serving the purpose. And so this is the time to remove it. And it's not just removing it. I think, if I read through the budget, carefully, I know very well that this is going to come at a cost to the state because, whatever tax government removes, one way or the other, money is going to government will reduce. Then I ask myself, what are the revenue measures that, government has put in place that they're going to use to fill in the gap that will be created as a result of the removal? And I deduce about 3 different approaches or different proposals that the finance minister intends to, use to fill in the gap, which for me, it's quite novel. And for you to come up with such, way of filling in a revenue gap, it's something that we have to applaud the finance minister for. So it didn't serve its purpose. At the end of the day, new administration has come. The emphasis is not on revenue generation, but then the emphasis is on expenditure cut. And so that is what I observed, following the dynamics carefully.
Okay, you mentioned that it's about dynamics. How significant is the revenue shortfall that you anticipate? And really, what alternatives? I know you mentioned these 3 initiatives that you're calling novel, but what should the government consider or prioritize in filling that gap?
Well, I think if you read the budget from paragraph 142 down to, 164, the measures are clear. And the finance minister acknowledged that with this removal, we're going to lose around 1.9 billion, when it comes to the E-Levy, and then about 180 billion when it comes to the betting tax. But then, together, he says that now there was some kind of tax refund account that was created somewhere about 8 years ago. And this tax refund account has accumulated about 29.11 billion. And out of it, only 12.5 billion has been used to serve, to service tax refund. But then 16.6 has been misapplied. He quoted the PFM Act, which at the end of the day, you may not, I will call it misappropriation, because once you are allocating funds without following the Public Financial Management Act, then it becomes more or less. But then he said, if he's able to reduce the ceiling of the tax refund, from 6% to 4%, he should be able to save about 3.8 billion. And if you combine the betting tax and then the E-Levy, this 3.6 billion should be able to cover, the two. And so one way or the other is enough filling. And then also the finance minister, if I go down the same under the same revenue measures, which every economist will look at how you're going to fill in the gap. Clearly, he indicated that if you look at what we get as far as from our mining companies is concerned, we're not getting much, because what we call natural resource rent, right, which is the difference between the revenue that you generate from a commodity and then the cost of producing that commodity, is about 14% to our GDP. And this is more or less like a profit that goes to the mining companies.
Right.
And so, and if you look at what we are getting from these mining companies, we're getting around 1.5, percent to our GDP from, these mining companies. And so he thinks, no, for now, he can increase it to about, 3%, between 1% to 3%. One way or the other, it's a way of also generating revenue, for the country. And somebody will ask if, you're going to tax the mining sector, then that's going to stifle our growth, more or less. But then the question is, the growth that we are experiencing with mining and quarrying leading, the growth, is it inclusive? That's the question we need to ask. Is it something that is generating jobs for the country? So I always term it as, a country that we are enjoying some kind of vertical growth, but then the growth is not inclusive. Right. Now, if we, look at the way and manner the budget was presented, looking at the scrapping of this E-Levy and other things, that will make the ordinary Ghanaian comfortable. One way or the other, I see it to be more or less like, shifting the economy from that kind of horizontal growth to, that kind of vertical growth to horizontal growth, where he thinks, removing this VAT can boost, removing the E-Levy can boost consumption.
Right. And Prof,
we should understand that the removal of the taxes is not a complete loss in the economy. Right. And an economy is a system. If you remove taxes and those taxes tend to boost consumption, then of course will enhance production. And if companies are producing and they're making more profit, government gets a tax from there.
Okay.
So it's more or less like an indirect way of deferring what government is supposed to get now, and then making sure that it boosts production, and in the end will build up into more increase in taxes in the future.
Right.
So,
Prof. Mensah, you have to hold for me now. Let me bring in Mr. Aponsa Boateng into the conversation. You said that removing this tax will boost consumption. From the tax perspective, Mr. Boateng, if you're looking at the implications for Ghana's tax policy direction, so to speak, does this repeal signal a shift towards a more business-friendly tax regime, or does it expose some weaknesses in our tax policy making? Mr. Boateng, if you can hear me, please unmute.
Yes. Okay. I'm sorry, I think I'm having a little challenge with the network.
Right. So,
my friend.
Okay.
Yes. So, if I can get your question again.
Right. So, Professor Mensah was saying that removing this tax will boost consumption. He made a lot of other important points. But I just wanted to take that bit about tax or the implication for Ghana's tax policy direction. Does the repeal of this E-Levy shift towards a more business-friendly tax regime, or does it expose weaknesses in Ghana's tax policy making? I'm asking because it might be, a point to make that uncertainty in frequent policy reversals could discourage investors. But what do you think?
Okay. What I would say is that, you see, when you have an increase in your disposable income, what happens is that you are able to save. And you agree with me that what we save is what we normally invest. Okay. From my point of view, disposable income is more or less your take-home pay after the PAYE has been deducted. So that is that. Now, with the repeal of these
do I still have Mr. Eric Aponsa Boateng with me? I think we're getting some...
taxes. What is going to happen is that it is going to...
Okay, Mr. Aponsa, it appears we have some interference in your network. Perhaps we can... you can get off and reconnect again so that we get a clearer connection, so we can hear you and get the crux of the argument that you're trying to make. But while we are trying to fix that, Professor Lord Mensah, similar question. You see, okay. I think that investors might be discouraged if we are getting frequent or uncertainty in, policy reversals, especially when it comes to our taxes. Is that a point we should be paying attention to, or would it actually boost a business-friendly environment?
That is very, very important. You see, every business thinks about consistency in after-tax profit. A business will not be, moving to places where, their taxes, after-tax profit is uncertain. I mean, there's no way, businesses will move to such environment. And so I have said this, and I will repeat it here on your platform. I think it was the same time somewhere when Reparatory at a point in time introduced tax in the main budget, and then within the media budget, I think those taxes were removed. I cannot be specific on, the taxes. And I mentioned that tax inconsistencies, more or less can discourage, businesses. And I hope that, what we have now settles it for all. I mean, we should, if you go into the advanced world, I mean, we use their textbooks and other things for our environment and all those. Consistently, you could see that even if the textbooks are updated, the tax handles remains almost the same. You talk about corporate tax, you talk about, talking about 30%, 35% thereabout. So from where I sit, the consistency is very, very important. I hope that, this was a well thought through, removal. And by so doing, we will not have a situation where by mid-year budget review, we're going to restore, all these removals. And of course, I mean, it's very, very tempting looking at the way, the parliament is more or less, imbalanced. Now there's a simple majority that can be used to move any policy at all. But then we shouldn't use that as an advantage to be throwing in, tax policies and then removing tax policies unnecessarily. And it is very, very important to highlight on that. So from where I sit, yes, it's kind of going to boost, business confidence. It's going to, ensure that consumption improves. And so let's maintain that and see how, things will go. And most of the time, such tax handles, sometimes their impact are not felt within one fiscal year. Most of the time, it tends to, grow over the year. So let's be careful how we introduce taxes here and there. Let's not use, the majorities in parliament that we have to be throwing in, policies that will scare, investors.
Right. And I didn't hear you say anything about the digital economy. Yesterday, Professor Bokpin was saying that he thinks we will see Momo uptake again, and people will be free to use mobile money because it's easy and convenient and all that. Now, with the repeal of this E-Levy, do you think that it's crucial for, or what does it mean really for Ghana's digital economy? What does it do for us?
Right. So, when you talk about the digital, economy, especially in the banking sector and how money moves around, you cannot take out financial inclusion. Financial inclusion, digital platforms are being used to ensure that those who don't have access to the former, banking sector can, have, part of the, can be part of the financial network. But then E-Levy, coming in vain. That's why, at the beginning, we suggested that people are still in the old days of, moving money from one point to the other. So in order not to discourage them, let's start the E-Levy with a small percentage so that gradually, as you whet their appetite on the platform, you can increase it to the margin that you want. But I think all those fell into, deaf ears. But then for me, removing it more or less will encourage the usage of, the digital platforms for, transactions. And we should see more inclusivity when it comes to, digital platforms for transactions. I can give you a typical example. Of my own brother who told me that he can't use his money, he can't use his platform again because of the charges and all those. And these are people that don't really understand that little penny that you take from them, it hits them so hard, So effectively, removing it more or less will encourage, the usage of the platform. And we should see more people becoming part of the financial network, which in itself is good. It's a good signal because one way or the other, once you have more people getting into the financial, system, it boosts, money within the financial space. And money can be taken for investment. And if those monies are taken for investment, it builds up the economy one's back. So from where I sit, we should appreciate the pass-through effect of these policies on the economy.
Let me try and see if I have Mr. Eric Amponsa-Boateng back with us. Mr. Amponsa, great. It's good to have you back. So you were making a point, and let's hear you out.
Okay. The point that I was making is the fact that when you abolish these nuisance taxes, what happens is that at the end of the day, your disposable income increases. And normally, when that increases, you can either save a portion of it. And we know that savings is what we normally use for investment. If you don't save and you spend, like my friend said, it is going to boost the economy. I am happy that this government at least has listened to us, especially those who run their businesses. The other issue is that it is also going to make doing business in Ghana, the cost come down. And rightly so, when you are doing business in Ghana and your cost is very low, at the end of the day, your profit level is going to increase. And normally you reinvest that profit into the business, expand the business. And then there's also growth. When there's growth and your income levels are high, at the end of the day, the GRA is also going to benefit from the corporate taxes. Aside that, you definitely would engage employees. You will also have third-party transactions.
Right.
And all of these bring in the revenue that we expect. One area which I expected the government to look at, I think in 2013, sometime in January, we sent the bill to the then finance minister. Until date, that bill is still there. That bill is about online, or what we term the digital transactions. So, for example, if there is a company that is not resident in Ghana, and I buy something from that company, what it means is that because the income is not received in Ghana, per our tax laws, it is exempt. But you look at our tax laws, the source of the transaction is in Ghana. So we felt that there should be a way to at least get something on account. And that hasn't been done because you see, these days, the world has become a global village. You can sit in Ghana and buy anything from any part of the world.
Okay.
So I expect that probably the mid-year budget, they will have a look at that.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Professor Lord Mensah. And Professor Lord Mensah is an economist, and Eric Amponsa-Boateng is a tax consultant. Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us for breakfast this morning.
You're welcome.
Well, that's the end for this belt of conversation. There's a lot more coming your way. We have AM exclusive for you coming up next. You want to stick and stay. We'll be right back. Welcome back. This is the AM show brought to you by Waylead Properties Limited. And this is AM exclusive. My guest is already in the studio with me, and I'm particularly excited. Let me introduce him. My guest for AM exclusive today is Mr. Fritz Baffour, former information minister and former member of parliament for Ablekuma South. Sir, it's such an honor to speak with you. Good morning and welcome to the AM show.
Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah. Where have you been? It's been a while, we caught wind of you.
I'm around.
Yeah?
Very much so.
But low-key, quiet?
No, I'm not quiet.
No? Okay. Let's get the conversation started. I know that many people know you as a journalist, a politician, a communication consultant. Which one do you prefer to go by often?
Ghanaian.
Okay, what does that mean? Who are you? Who's Fritz Baffour? We know what you've done in this country before, but how do you introduce yourself?
As I said, I'm a Ghanaian, a very proud Ghanaian.
Okay.
I love this country very much. It's my comfort zone. My friends are here, my family, most of my family are here, and I get my inspiration from Ghana. So I'm very much a Ghanaian. Okay. I can't even say I even have a hometown because I come from different places. My parents are have strands from all over Ghana, so that's why I say I'm a Ghanaian.
Okay.
But naturally, you live in certain areas. I've lived in Apart from my years abroad and living in Kumasi with my dad, I've lived in Koligono.
Yeah.
So I'm a Koligono boy. Okay. You understand? Yes. And my mother has very strong Ghana roots. So I've been made a traditional ruler in one of the outlying villages in Accra.
Okay.
So through family connections. So, but I'm a Ghanaian. Okay. I have roots from the north to the south, east to the west.
Okay. And I want to focus, the conversation will focus on your career in politics and maybe the media space, journalism and bits like that. Right. But I want to start from politics.
Yeah.
Are you still part of the NDC?
Very much so.
Okay.
Very, very much so. I'm a member of the Council of Elders of the region. So I'm very much a member of the party. Okay. And a working member of the party.
Okay. Since President John Dramani Mahama took office,
yes,
have you had any interactions, encounter? Are you doing anything actively from the NDC?
Yes, as a member of the Council of Elders, naturally we work and we give advice.
Okay.
And I think that is the position I've taken at the moment.
Right.
All right, because I'm past retirement. All right, I'm a grandfather of 5 children, grandchildren, and so what do I expect?
Well, I asked because it looks like you weren't quite friendly with some members of the party. I read so many articles on you, and I know that when you decided to go with Alban Bagbane instead of President John Dramani Mahama at the time, yes, some people spoke about you being, disloyal to the party and so on and so forth. No. I'm just asking to bring clarity to the matter.
You're right to ask me those questions. Disloyal to the party, I was a founding member of the party.
Yeah.
I traveled the length and breadth of this country working for the party, and I still work for the party. I can never be disloyal to NDC. Okay. But I'm honest to myself, and I told you I'm a Ghanaian. And if there are concerns that transcend party lines, right, I will speak up. Now, I didn't have anything against President John Mahama. When he lost the election, my belief was that he should become a statesman. All right? I've been proven wrong. I'm glad I've been proven wrong because he's rebounded and he's doing his best, all right? But we are mortal, and we make mistakes. But at the time, I felt that Alban Bagbane was a great potential as a president of Ghana. And so that's why I went for him. And I'm proud to know him. He's a man I respect, and he's a man I uphold with a lot of honor and privilege in working with him.
How does it look from your perspective? Active member of the party, no issues there, but how does it look in this short month, 3 months or so in office as president? I know you just said that he's doing his best, but if I was to ask for an assessment of his short term in office so far, what would that be from your perspective?
I think it's very unfair for us to assess him in 3 months.
Okay.
Because we are in a state of flux. He hasn't appointed all his appointees. We haven't put our MMDCs into place. The budget has just been read.
Right.
The impact has not been felt. And earlier on, when I was looking at your program, I saw the taxmen talking. And they said, look, you can't even feel the impact now. The good thing is that there's an air of hope and freedom, which we needed, because the 8 years was a horror story for me.
How horrible was it?
I won't demonize the MPP.
Okay.
I refuse to do that, because there are some very good people in the MPP. People who love Ghana just as much as I do, or even more so. But I felt that we went through a period where we did not care too much about the people on the street. And they are the ones who keep us going. They are the ones who make Ghana. You have to care about the man and woman on the street. And you can't take them for granted. And so that was the situation for me. That's why I'm a social democrat.
Right. So let's stay on that for a bit. Although it's too early to critique or to criticize or, assess this government, like you've said, there are things that they said they would do that they're doing, and it's not everything that they've done so far that is sitting well with some people. For example, you look at the revocation of those appointments that were made, and it fits into their promise of a lean government, but it's affected some lives. And there are so many other things, like the approach to handling Galamsey. Before coming into office, he did say he will revoke LI 2462, and now we are looking at an amendment. We asked for a state of emergency. We haven't seen that yet. So I know, and I agree with you that there might be some air of hope, but are these not issues that we can actually assess the president on? Yeah.
Galamsey is a very serious problem. And where I stand, I believe that we're not handling it right at all.
Yeah.
The previous government and the present government, their approach is a little wrong. Because, let me tell you something, I was chairman of Defense and Interior.
Yes.
In Parliament for 4 years. My greatest love is military history. And I have a lot of friends in the military and the security services. I interact with them. I've been a journalist in war situations, 2 war situations. And so, from what I've gathered, you don't use soldiers internally unless it's for a very short-term operation. Because the army or the military, when you use them, whatever operation they have is time-bound, all right? Go in there, capture the town, and then we'll move in. You go in there and you can't capture the town, and you fail your objective, you retreat.
Right.
Now, I believe to solve the Galamsey problem in this country, we have to have a dedicated forest ranger force.
The blue water guards is not.
That is pitiable. You need to put people who understand the forest, people who are knowledgeable about the environment. We can get help from Kenya. We can get help from South Africa. We've got a jungle warfare training center in Achasi. We can put all our things together, talk to the EPA guys, talk to geologists and everything, and put together a dedicated force. That's objective is only to defend the forests and environment of Ghana. And they've got to be armed because the situation in Ghana in the forest is not safe. The illegal miners are armed.
Yeah.
You don't need the army, you don't need the police. The police have their job to do. When you arrest people, you hand them over to the police and they go through the travails of law. But you need a dedicated force. And that's what we've got to work on now.
But you just said we don't need the army, you don't need the police.
No, I'm talking in enforcement.
Okay.
You need a force to protect our forests and our environment.
And it cannot come from the army?
No, they've got to be trained, a dedicated force. It can be a separate security service, but their job is to protect the forests of Ghana. All right, that's one. Okay. And secondly, we've got to also look holistically. How did those mining equipment and dredges, how did they come into Ghana? We have a GRA. We have security services and everything. We have DVLA that registers all of these things. They should have been stopped at that level. But these things come through. How do they get through? How do they get to the areas? We have districts, district assemblies and everything, and they should know when anything comes into their area. And all these things are what I worry about. We talk too much about the end result, and we don't talk about the prevention. And the prevention is what's most important. And that's why we have a Galamsey problem here.
Actually, that's a good point. You know, there's an argument ongoing now as to whether or not we should ban excavators when they're seized. I know this administration say they want to keep it as a way of tracking, use it as evidence to prosecute those criminals, because they are criminals, what they're doing to our water bodies and forests. Weighing on this argument, should we be banning these excavators or should we keep them? I think we have engineers who can assess the use of those excavators by the state. And one thing I believe in is that in the areas where it's been very difficult for Ghanaian contractors to access, to build roads, cocoa roads and things like that, in America, they use the army, the military engineers. All right? They built the Panama Canal.
They build the levees in Louisiana. And even in Britain, when there are problems, they bring them in because engineers, they are experts at building such facilities very fast. So if we give those excavators to the military and we paint them green, and they're used for the purposes of making this country more accessible to our people, fine. But it's a suggestion. And these things I'm throwing are opinions that have got to be considered.
Okay. So you also said that we are not doing well at all. You mentioned a dedicated force to fight Galamsey. How about declaring the state of emergency? And that maybe the last bit on Galamsey. Do we need that, do you think?
No, you don't. Because when you declare a state of emergency, it affects the innocent. All right? And we're talking about rural areas where people have to farm. So they've got to get up early.
But these guys are giving up their farmlands to illegal miners.
How many of them? The thing is that the impact of Galamsey is immense. But the people who are affected are also immense. So we have to really consider very, 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 very hard before we say something like state of emergency or whatever.
Okay. Now let's go to Parliament. You were a member of Parliament. Observing how this 9th Parliament is taking off and all the drama that we've been seeing, especially from the Appointments Committee up to this point. Yesterday, actually, I was surprised. Avenue Markin was saying that they're giving their full support to the majority in, passing that repeal bill and all. But it hasn't been a smooth time in Parliament. You've been watching. Have you been enjoying the show?
No. It was a shock to most Ghanaians, the defeat of MPP.
Really?
Yes.
Most Ghanaians were shocked?
At least most Ghanaians I knew didn't. I'm not talking about the defeat.
Right.
I'm talking about the magnitude.
Okay. The margin.
Yeah. And if you had a number of MPs, 137, and now you have 88, if I'm right, then you've lost the governance of the country. You're in a state of shock. And for ego, for pride, for honor, you've got to do something about it. And it manifests itself in the way they behaved. Afinya Markin, I know very well. I've never seen any unpleasantness from him privately, as of the people in the minority now.
Yeah.
Outside the chamber, we're all very cordial. And I think that we should start extending that cordiality to inside the chamber too. We don't have to show off. Because you see, my problem about Ghana is that we're not a developed country, we're a developing country.
Yeah.
So we've got to work together. All right? We can't demonize each other, fight each other. And I'm not a dove. I just believe in the reality that this country is such a wonderful country. It's a very wealthy country. And the reason why we are in such a horrible state is we've mismanaged our resources, including our human resource base.
How are we doing that?
We've mismanaged it, the way we've handed out contracts, the way we've looked at our resources, the way we look at our human resource base, the fact that we don't hold them in high esteem, we don't have the policies that will help them work for Ghana. And I hate the politicization of Ghana. I don't believe that politics should invade certain institutions of Ghana, because you need a clear mind in order to do things. And with politics, when you hold a political position, it can be stubborn.
Yeah.
All right? And so that's a problem.
Okay. So you've not been enjoying the show. If they were listening to you right now, both majority and minority, what would you say to them? As someone who was in their shoes at some point.
I'll tell them to come together.
Yeah.
I mean, naturally, we'll have our different positions. But we have to start showing the people out there that we're working together. If we don't work together, this country is not going to be saved.
Okay. Now the judiciary. We know that the president is currently in consultation with the State Council of States. Why are you smiling? Right. I want to pick your thoughts on that. Many have said that this is just politics playing out, and But the president did say, I mean, as far as we know from that statement, that 3 petitions were served, which he forwarded to the Council of State to determine whether there's a prima facie case to even probe and all that. What do you think is happening here? Because our Constitution actually gives us the right to do this, the processes that we are following right now.
You've answered your question. Oh. Because you said the Constitution gives us the opportunity.
Yeah, but many of the opinion that...
if people petition, then it has to be considered.
Right.
Whether it's going to be positive or negative depends on the Council of State and the legal system that we use to determine whether the Chief Justice should be impeached or removed or what. You understand? It's because we have distrusted the system that we've used them politically in the past, that has created this distrust and this kind of talk. The thing is, we've got to start being honest with ourselves and doing things properly, especially when we're doing it for the people.
Could we maintain Chief Justice Gertrude Torkornoo?
I'm not a lawyer. I have a lot of...
You're a statesman.
Yeah, but I have a lot. I've got a lot of friends who are lawyers, the verdict out there is 60-40, that she's all right, that she's capable. Maybe she was caught in between the devil and the deep blue sea in the previous political dispensation, so she had to protect herself. And that's all I can say about it, really.
Okay. Last thing, and then we get into journalism proper, but it's connected. You know that the former IGP sort of centralized the flow of information, communication flow. And although we went along with it, many people didn't like that. Something could happen somewhere in a district and you had to go to the headquarters for information. And sometimes there were issues of accuracy in terms of the details that were reported. Now we have a new IGP and he's taken that sort of gag off, so to speak. How do you feel about that?
Well, George Dampari was a good policeman. He was a friend of mine. I liked him. He'd done his studies. He was strict, and he had his own ideas. And he felt that at a certain time, the press relations, the media relations of the police wasn't as efficient as he wanted it to be. So I'm sure he centralized it to try and clean it up. All right, maybe he didn't have enough time to finish his objective. But there are different ways of dealing with the media, and that is one. I've always believed in decentralization, but you also have to have training, and you have to have a certain sense of purpose in order to do that.
Yeah.
So if IGP Onu has changed things, I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
So the same question, could we have maintained, although it's past and gone?
It's different strokes for different folk. Okay.
Now, journalism in Ghana today is under some immense scrutiny. We're talking about press freedom, whether or not the space is free for us to share opinions, critique government when we have to and all that. You mentioned, or we started by saying there's a new era of hope in this country. Do you think that reflects in the media? Do you think there's more freedom within the media space now? Having been a journalist yourself at some point.
I think the media at the moment is being very tentative. They're not sure who they're dealing with yet. Yes, I can see that.
Are we in for some surprises, do you think?
It will happen. But when it comes to the media, I think that the regulations that were supposed to govern the media have not been enforced. We were not supposed to have religious stations. We were not supposed to have tribal stations. We were not supposed to have certain stations. And we were supposed to have very strict controls before you set up your television outlet or your radio outlet and all that kind of thing. And you weren't supposed to have a strictly a station owned by politicians per se. All these things have been ignored. So the space is basa-basa. And because it's not clean. We have to look at it, but we have to be very, very careful, because if we start putting sanctions into place, they'll be looked on as political. Because I saw the terrible thing that was done when Radio Gold was banned and other radio stations were removed from the airwaves and all that. Because people can use politics to do harm because they can skirt around the regulations. But I believe that we should really look at the standards and the quality of our media productions and products.
Okay. So, I want to take your reflections on some current affairs, things that are happening right now that I want you to get a bite on. Let's start with the Signal Bureau boss, Edu Boahin. We know as we speak that he sued Iyoko and the AG over that 200 million cedis bill. And the issues that the AG explained to us, it started with, why are we hunting this man down? People didn't really understand. And then he held a press conference to elaborate on the matter. I think there and then many people judged him because court of public opinion. If we heard that you've taken taxpayers' money to go and buy 27 houses somewhere while the ordinary Ghanaian is struggling to make ends meet, it makes for interesting TV, actually.
It does.
It does, doesn't it?
Yes.
But at this point where we've seen so far it's still an alleged crime, they haven't actually gone to court and tried this case yet. But where do you sit? Or where do you stand?
I think it shows the flaws in our system.
The flaws?
We've got serious flaws in our preventive system. If somebody can go to a bank and take 7 million cedis out, whether it's his money or not, it should raise red flags, either for GRA, for those monitoring authorities, because there's something wrong with it. 7 million cedis out, because now you can't take 50,000 cedis out of your bank account. But why else 7 million? I am not indicting anybody, but I'm saying that our institutions are not doing their work. And I mentioned that with Galamsey. Now, we also have our Richard Quay, goes to spend $3.5 billion or so. That's what they say. And our taxmen it's only after the event. You understand? Look, in the United States, you can't take out $10,000. All right?
If you were to make an educated guess.
Yes.
Well, how would you say this happened without us catching on? Like you said, the flaws. What exactly happened there?
Because we don't have monitoring, and then we also have political interference. Or certain people assume political powers that are beyond the bounds of our legal system. All right? I'm just saying that we have border controls.
Somebody ought to have said something.
Yes.
Something.
Yes. And I worked in a government institution. Another time, the board had not been put into place, or the board had just been put into place, and we needed some equipment, and I was the CEO. And so I went and I said, let's go, and went through, at that time, the procurement procedure and bought it.
Okay.
And then I reported to the board, and the board gave it to me well, because they said I hadn't been given the approval. So I understood it. Later on, I realized that is the way we do things. The Signal Bureau should have a board. Every single government institution should have a board, and that board should monitor the incomings and the outgoings, and then be ready to sanction or to take an effective action if they feel there is an anomaly. That's it.
Let's put the whole corruption umbrella, the whole corruption industry, because it's a thriving industry in this country. Let's put it on the table. I know that in the lead up to election 2024, Bawumia was saying his approach would be to use digitalization or digitization, remove the human interface, and then it removes the temptation to sin. I don't know exactly how Oral is meeting us at the point of our needs in terms of our quest to eradicate corruption. But I want to put that canvas in front of you to paint that picture for us.
Well,
how are we dealing with corruption? Is it effective?
Look, I think President Baffour said most people are corrupt.
Yeah.
It is not
started
that,
from the days of Adam, I think.
But it's not about corruption. People will do things if they are not caught. There are very few people in this world who are that innately so honest, so holy, that they wouldn't do things that are negative if they realize they can get away with it. So what we have to do is we have to put, I'm not saying that we're corrupt, I'm just saying that it's a human tendency and it's acknowledged. And that's why we have government institutions and we have public institutions that are supposed to monitor that. Look, I have a German friend and I was walking with him and he said to me, Ghanaians are very, very honest. And I said, why? He said, I don't see any policemen. I said, why? He said, in Germany, around every street corner, there's a policeman to enforce the rules and regulations of that particular area or the state. So it shows you that we don't have the policing, the institutions that are supposed to police individuals and the operations of government institutions are not doing their work. And we have to strengthen them. And that is where I think that would be one of the first steps to trying to remove corruption or reduce corruption.
That's one of the things we saw under IGP Dampare's time. We saw police visibility.
Yes.
At least all the major, streets or checkpoints, you see police there.
Yeah.
And I think that was the first time we started seeing motor riders stop at the traffic lights. So maybe that's just to his credit.
They didn't stop in certain places. And please,
I saw some of them stop at some places.
Success is somewhere.
Yeah. Okay. Let's talk about that. Because I know that they're trying to review that policy right now. And I think it helps us as Ghanaians in terms of beating the traffic, delivery. Deliveries are also a thriving business now.
Yeah.
Should we just regulate and legalize Okada business in Ghana?
That is a conundrum for me.
Okay.
Because there's a certain element of danger. If we are going to legalize Okada, then we've got to rigidly enforce the traffic regulations. If we don't, we're going to have a lot of injuries.
What would that look like?
Fatalities. Well, it's a question of when you register them, you find out where they are, where they live and all that. So there's some kind of recourse to finding them if there's a problem. And then we also have to ensure that they know that they're being watched. You understand? It's a big brother effect. And that's why I say there's a conundrum. Because when you do that too, it also, impacts on our freedoms and things like that. Okay. But it's a topic for discussion.
Okay. So aside the Signals Bureau former boss, there's also the issue of the Bank of Ghana's former governor, the rage on the home of the former Bank of Ghana, Dr. Addison. Many have said that the approach was wrong because you don't disable CCTV if you're going into someone's home with a warrant and good intentions or just to do your job. Others have also said that the system requires a different approach, because they did promise us accountability, transparency, and jobs, I think, and oral operation recover all loot. These are just the machinations in place to deliver on their mandates. But what do you say on the raid of the Bank?
We are in a state of transition. And our transition is not a very good transition. And so certain things would happen that normally you would disapprove. I've never really liked playing to the gallery when it comes down to arrests and things like that. But there are some people who have that belief that we're going to show the world that we're working against corruption. All right?
So it's just about the optics?
Very much so, in a lot of ways. Because you can do it differently and be just as effective. But the optics are important now because we've got a lot of people out there. I'm on the platforms. And when I even raise my, objection to some of these things, I am lashed. You understand? Because I realize that that is how they feel. And I can't say that I'm always right and they are wrong. But with my sensibilities and sensitivities, I believe that sometimes we have to be subtle in the way we do things. But I have no objections to it.
Does this then reveal some, I don't want to say rots, but gaps in the way we transition? Should we be looking at something that reforms the entire transition system? Because we are looking at people whose means of livelihood have been taken away from them because apparently they were appointed or employed after a particular date, and it wasn't supposed to be so. There was an agreement that was broken. We are looking at raids on state-owned institutions. We are looking at invading people's privacies and so on and so forth. What should we be doing?
There you go.
Right.
We have to really sit down and have an informed a conversation about how we deal with the transitions. All our transitions are like a coup d'etat. We've taken over power. Let's punish these guys. Let's get rid of these guys. We don't trust, because it's based on a great distrust between the partisan positions in this country. And we have got to really resolve that, because there are other problems to be resolved. And if we keep on carping at each other and not giving ourselves the opportunity to talk to each other, those problems, all right, will be exacerbated.
Okay. Final bit, and then we go to some quick fire rounds on the constitutional review work that is currently ongoing.
Yes.
I think all these things feed into the constitution that actually gives us the powers to do the things the way we are doing it currently. What are your top 3 things that we should prioritize in our quest to review the Constitution and make it a working document that suits this era as we speak?
I've got a comment to make. In 2012, when I was the Minister of Information, that was when the Constitutional Fiajo Committee came out. The document itself, I recommend to every Ghanaian worth his salt to read. It was a magnificent document, because they did their work. And yet, the findings were not put into place. We're doing it again. Fine. I know the present crop of guys will do a wonderful job, but will we have the political will to make the changes? That's one. Secondly, I look at Parliament. Parliament is supposed to be a legislative body, makes laws, all right? And we adopted the British system at independence. Because that's what we knew. Okay? And then after Nkrumah was overthrown, we had a separation of we just took on the British system, but we had a president. And he wasn't a ceremonial president, he was an executive president, but his powers were limited by some aspects of parliamentary procedure. Then in the Third Republic, we had a complete separation of powers. But there was a problem, a human problem. Let's say we have a complete separation of powers. So people go to Parliament, or they go to their party, sends its people into Parliament. Some would lose, but they'll be very, very influential people, but they've lost their seat. What do? You make them ministers. Okay? So they are now ministers. Now, in reality, the salaries of members of Parliament and the salaries of ministers are virtually at par, except that there are certain perks that the ministers have. And then also, the social conditioning of Ghanaians is that a minister is more powerful than a...
Absolutely, which is why when some members of Parliament didn't get appointments, their constituency constituents were setting things ablaze there and there.
Yeah, that's right. So in the Third Republic, where we had a complete separation of powers, you've won your seat. For instance, Ablikma South, I won my seat, 15,000. Somebody loses his seat and he's made a minister, all right? And he's got a house, he's got a car, he's got police escorts, he gets a pride of place when they go to gatherings and things like that. The human factor is, look at that. But the thing is that if we make Parliament as important in terms of their role, and we do the civic education for Ghanaians to understand it, then it'll be so. So do you know what happened? People started, within the parties themselves, started carping at the ministers who were, and that's why the budget wasn't passed. The Bene budget wasn't passed. So this was taken into consideration when we were considering the 4th Republican Constitution. So I'm expecting the Constitutional Review Committee to come out with a solution to that. You understand?
Right.
So I'm just giving you a historical background. But I believe that if you want to be a parliamentarian, be a parliamentarian. If you want to be a minister, be a minister. So that, and then the ministers are under they come and they have to report to Parliament, and Parliament can tell them what to do. You understand?
Would that not increase the number of government officials we have? And if we have ministers who are not from Parliament,
that's a very good question, because you know that I've said that we've got too many parliamentarians.
Yes, you have.
That is my private opinion.
Okay.
I don't think we should have more than 200 MPs. And I think we have too many districts. And I know that people from certain regions will throw stones at me, but I believe that we have too many regions.
You were former information minister.
Right.
Now we don't have that ministry.
Yeah.
Any thoughts on that?
Well, if I were to talk, they'll say maybe I'm defending a certain position.
Yeah.
But the Ministry of Information came about from Nkrumah's time, where we'd taken over, we got our independence. And Kwame Nkrumah believed that if we wanted to get reportage from every single area of the country, the best people to give us a reportage would be journalists who are trained to seek out information and report. And so we had the Information Services Department that reported to the minister. The minister would deal with policy and analysis, and then they would send the information. If there was security considerations, they'll send them out, and all that kind of thing. Maybe now, with the new kind of media facets or areas, I think maybe it has become a little outdated. So what they've done in saying government, so that when I was Minister of Information, I represented the government and not the presidency. But now they've put those two together because the presidency and governance in this present dispensation is united. So I don't have any objection to it.
Okay. So now let's do this quick fire. I'm going to ask you 5 questions, and you have to answer in one sentence or one word. Are you ready? One Ghanaian politician you deeply respect.
Babin.
Good answer. Best journalist you've ever worked with.
David Baffour.
Okay. Your biggest regret in politics.
I don't have one.
Okay. One policy you wish Ghana had implemented years ago, which would have propelled us to be a developed country, not still developing.
Unity of purpose.
Okay. And lastly, your favorite Ghanaian comedian today, because you were once a comedian.
Yes. I think that would be unfair.
No, just pick one. Just one.
DKB.
Okay. Well, thank you so much. My producer just saying that I should run this by you. Should we still take ministers from Parliament? I thought he answered that, but should we still take ministers from Parliament?
I think that, I don't think so.
Okay. Well, Mr. Fritz Baffour, thank you for joining us. And I know that we are not here to talk about creative arts, but I do want to take...
I don't mind.
Okay, I want to take your view on that before we go. Please permit me. How are we doing in terms of exporting talent outside the country? Because a lot of these creatives are actually leaving the country to go and explore opportunities outside.
Yeah, because
most of them don't even intend to come back into the country.
We don't look after them well.
Yeah.
I believe that we've got to do a little bit more about our cultural awareness, that we start inculcating our culture into our educational system right from the beginning. That will help us, because we don't know anything about our culture. We don't know anything about our history in reality. We don't know enough about ourselves, you know. And so, therefore, when we do these things, people will then appreciate our culture. You see somebody dancing Adowa, I'm sure if you had a child and you say, what's that dance? They wouldn't know it. And what is the importance of Adowa, the dance Adowa, all right, or Panlugu for that matter? Where did it come from? All these things are very, very, very important. And the history of this country is such a wonderful history. That is what has made us such a wonderful people.
Our history.
Yeah, because we are born to be together. We are people who marry out, we don't marry in, all right? We are people who go out and travel, and we are great people because we are hospitable to each other. Yet, we don't know the reasons why we do so.
Are we losing our history?
Yes.
How do we stop that from happening?
The Historical Society of Ghana, all historians in academia should get together and start producing the right kind of books, the right kind of information, and we have to start teaching history from day one.
Thank you so much for joining us for an exclusive interview this morning. My guest, thank you, Mr. Fritz Baffour, former Information Minister and former Member of Parliament for Ablekuma South. There's still so much more coming your way on the AM show. I'm really excited. Please stay. We'll be right back. And we're back on your screens. This is the AM show brought to you by Waylead Properties Limited. Now it's time for us to serve you AM Business. In a bid to strengthen Ghana's oil palm industry, the Tree Crops Development Authority has completed a familiarization tour of 3 major oil palm processing companies in the western and central regions. The visits aim to assess operations, discuss industry challenges, and explore strategies to boost local production. We'll tell you more on AM Business.
Ghana's oil palm industry has a rich history dating back to the early 20th century when it became a crucial part of the country's agricultural economy. In the early stages, smallholder farmers and local communities were at the heart of the industry, with most palm oil production being used locally for cooking oil and other household products. Over the years, the demand for palm oil has risen significantly, driven by both local consumption and the export market. The government has recognized this demand and the immense potential of the sector, implementing policies to boost local production. As part of efforts to assess operations, discuss industry challenges, and explore strategies to boost local production, the Tree Crop Development Authority has been visiting some key areas to understand the challenges of these local producers in the western and central regions.
I think this is the best model I've seen when it comes to end-to-end production. No waste at all. Right from plantations, right from the seed to the bunch, to the least waste being used and applied here. And you can see when it's talking about yield, the yield they are getting, I'm told the whole world, they are the best company producing yield from oil palm. And that's what I think many more companies, we expect more companies to come in and model this kind of factory we are seeing here. I mean, the number of people they are putting, almost 2,500 or so, and it's 24-hour shift. And this is what we are going to encourage more factories that will enable people to come here.
Benzo Oil Palm Plantation, Plantation Sokfinaf Ghana, and Chufi Oil Palm Plantation Limited. These companies play a crucial role in Ghana's oil palm value chain, contributing significantly to job creation and the government 24-hour economy. Benzo Oil Palm Plantation currently produces approximately 87,000 metric tons and employs more than 2,000 people, making it a significant contributor to the local economy.
Benzo Oil Palm Plantation PLC it was incorporated in 1976, and it started as a joint venture between the government of Ghana and Unilever, then known as UAC. It happened in the era of the Champong regime that multinational companies that were intending to repatriate their block dividends and profits to their mother countries were encouraged. In fact, it was a policy I hear that they reinvested some of their monies in the country. Then they will be allowed to take the rest back. And that is what gave birth to this company. At that time, UAC had Lever Brothers Factory, the producers of key soap and all the other things. And so palm oil is a very big raw material in the production of soaps and things like that. So UAC then decided to government, if you give me land, I'll go into plantation agriculture and produce palm oil to feed my factory. That is how this place began. So it actually began with government finding the land, and I'm emphasizing this because where we are at the moment, the kind of production and leverage and growth we need to get, government intervention cannot be overemphasized. The need for government intervention cannot be overemphasized. So they got the land from the chiefs and people and sorted out whatever with the necessary legal documents and title. And UAC then brought the capital and they started and developed this company. So this company was supplying all its palm oil to UAC for soap making and other products. Fast forward, government divested itself, sold its shares on the Ghana Stock Exchange, and that's how this company is listed. The rest of the shareholders include more than 10,000 individual shareholders and even institutional shareholders. Some insurance companies, financial institutions have shares here. SNIT, for instance, is a very key shareholder in this entity. And somewhere in 2014 or 2011, Unilever also divested their shares, and the shares were bought by Wilmar Africa Limited, who are now the producers of Fritol. And Wilmar Africa is now the majority shareholder. They themselves are they're actually a subsidiary of Wilmar International, which is listed on the Singapore Stock Exchange. So this is how this company is. We have been advocates and practitioners of sustainable agriculture. So long before the issues of climate change and everything came up, we knew that we must protect our water bodies. We knew that forests must be protected. So we have all sorts of protocols that we apply, especially as enshrined in the principles of the Roundtable on Sustainable Palm Oil. So globally, we are recognized as one of those companies that are operating with sustainable principles.
General Manager of Benso Oil Palm Plantation, Engineer Samuavala Awunia emphasized the need for stronger regulatory support from TCDA to ensure sustainable growth in the sector.
You see the smoke that is coming. That's a boiler using the waste or fiber that is actually waste product to fire a boiler, generate steam, and drive a turbine. So there's a 1 megawatt turbine there that is generating power to power the whole factory and our offices. And the power we use in this factory, 80 to 90% of it, we generate it ourselves. Do you get it? All from the oil palm waste. Do you get it? So that's an example of how sustainable our operations are. We also involve the community people. Now, initially, the size of our plantation land was 6,799. All of this was not planted at a go. There is 1,650, coming to about 25% of the concession, was developed into a smallholder scheme and given back to the community people. So there are 438 households that are participants in this smallholder scheme. So you see how inclusive the project has been. So this is why we believe that at this juncture, where Ghana is still a net importer of palm oil with a deficit of about 150,000 metric tons of palm oil a year, which is equivalent to having about 6 of this company, 6 more of it, before we can move to import parity.
Chief Executive Officer for the Tree Crop Development Authority, Dr. Andiose Okra, said the visit underscores TCDA's strategic focus on boosting local production, improving quality standards, and ensuring long-term sustainability of Ghana's oil palm industry.
Many more young people want them to get into the oil palm industry. This is a place for them to come and they can have some hands-on training right from the technical aspect to the financial and managerial thing. I think best look at the environment. They don't even waste one nut. Everything is taken and everything is used on this compound.
At Plantation Sokfinaf, Ghana in the Boase Wasa East District, Dr. Okra observed firsthand the company's oil palm processing operations. PSG, which began operations in 2019, has rapidly become one of the leading palm oil processors and exporters in Africa with a processing capacity of 30 tons per hour. However, PSG raised concerns about the challenges associated with land acquisition for expansion.
PSG is all about making palm oil and then palm kernel as well. And then rubber. We have rubber. Unfortunately, the rubber is not around, so we sell the raw materials, but we process the fruits here and then bring out the oil in them. Doing 30 tons per hour, which we are planning on expanding to 60 tons per hour. But like I said, for now, we are doing 30 tons per hour.
Addressing these concerns, Dr. Okra assured the company of the government's commitment to supporting value chain actors in the palm oil industry.
And I, as the authority head, I'm amazed. And I think we have to promote this kind of best practice that we have seen, and we'll be trooping here to learn more from that. Our hope is if they can expand more. They've told us they are into rubber and stuff, like people are coming here. So that's what we will see how best together with them if they can expand. I think they are in about 7 countries or so. Yeah, nine countries. So that should tell you that this is the best model, and we'll see how best we can help for them to expand.
The final stop of the tour was Chifu Oil Palm Plantation Limited, one of Ghana's top 5 palm oil producers. With a strong focus on smallholder farmers and outgrower project, top supports over 1,894 smallholder farmers and 3,300 outgrowers. Despite its success, the company faces challenges related to land encroachment and acquisition which could impact future growth. Dr. Okra toured the factory plantation site and community development project, expressing optimism about the sector's potential to generate revenue and create sustainable jobs. Ghana consumes approximately 450,000 metric tons of palm oil annually, primarily from products like vegetable cooking oil. However, local production only meets about 300,000 metric tons, leaving a shortfall of 150,000 metric tons that must be imported. Addressing this gap is a key priority for the TCDA. James Echen's report for Joy Business.
Thank you for your patience and loyalty for staying with us. Now let me tell you about From Flower to Fortune. And in the studio here with me is the CEO of Nis Cakes and More, Ida Nilanda. Ida, welcome to the program.
Thank you so much.
I just want to first of all congratulate you because you are using your craft, your skill, your business to empower other people. And which brings us to this From Flower to Fortune. You're training people to empower orphans. Tell me more about it.
So, because I'm a baker and then I train at my workplaces, most of the time I get orphans coming through to learn from my shop. And then it got to a time I was like, okay, if these orphans have sisters that probably took care of them and brought them to me, how about those who don't have sisters or siblings that are bringing them to me? So I was like, okay, we could do more. I may not have it all to do a lot, but then I can start from somewhere. So then I asked myself, what do I do to support more orphans out there? Because they coming closer to me, or me giving them the opportunity to train at my place for free, give me more insight, knowledge about them. I became more open-minded about things they go through, especially those in their adolescent stages,
right?
Those growing. Then I was okay. So really, most of the time, the notion of we mostly having the orphans are children at the orphanage homes. That maybe on our birthdays you go and say, "Oh, I want to celebrate with the children." When you go, you said they will pack all the children at one place and then you celebrate with them. The next day when you go, the next year, that child has grown.
Yeah.
They are no longer the focus again.
Yeah.
We go to children. Then what happens to them? That's where they need someone to talk to. They need grooming, they need training, they need more attention. So I decided to go through that angle to help them.
So you are training them to be like you, to bake?
Yes, to bake.
And so when you go, this is happening tomorrow.
Yes.
At Chosen Home Orphanage in Dakuman.
Yes.
What does it look like? When you go there tomorrow, what exactly are you doing with these orphans?
So from the beginning, it was just my little dream of going to orphanage homes to train. But then when I brought it out there to my social media, a lot of other entrepreneurs came to me. I was like, Ida, we'd like to also do this. So we are not only doing the baking aspect, but we are baking, we are training them on hair, how to do hair. Those who do hair came on board.
Oh,
so we have free hair training, we have makeup training, we have a whole lot. Even decor, they also came through for me. So yeah, a group of...
You're giving these orphans
ladies,
life skills that they can leverage to make something for themselves. I think that's wonderful, Ida. How long have you been doing this?
So actually, this is our first with the official orphanage home. But then I have been doing this orphanage training for over 6 years now. And then it's been like one or two. And then I was like, okay, 1 or 2. I've gotten to know that they really need help. What do I do for those out there as well? So that is how come I decided to now go to their centers and then train them. And also, it's not even stopping there. I'm not even ending it just maybe 1 day training and I leave it there. No. So I go to the orphanage home. After the training, those who are more interested in probably continuing, I spoke to the home that I would like to bring them to my shop and then train them to continue.
And you are doing all this for free?
Exactly. Basically, it's for free.
Do you need help?
I need help.
Please ask for help. What do you need?
I definitely
let's
need
start
help.
from tomorrow and then we can look at the bigger picture going forward. But for tomorrow, I know that you need some support. Please appeal to us.
So basically, I can't do it all alone. I'm only doing it in my small space. But with everybody coming through to help me, we'll be able to do more. We can achieve more by getting more support. So you can support us, whether with the items. Most of the time, we need the product, like the flour, the margarine, sugar, products that will help whatever we're doing to be successful. Or probably finances, cash, transport, anything to support us.
What number can they send that money on?
On 0244 756136. I can take it again, 0244 756136.
And that's from flour to fortune. Details on your screen right now. Empowering orphans through baking. A young woman who bakes decided that she doesn't want to succeed alone. She's taking all the orphans with her. So if you have the means, please support her. And let's put some smiles on the faces of orphans. But I mean, I've heard a lot about orphans. What about you? NIS cakes and more. What exactly do you do? What kind of baking?
With
what
my
kind of stuff
work,
do you bake?
Okay, so I do cakes and pastries, and then also I do more of training. Exactly, we sell all types of pastries, everything. We are located at Abeka and then also in Tesano. So you see one of our shops in Abeka and then one in Tesano.
If someone wanted to order a cake, what number can they call?
It's the same 0244 756136, and we're on social media at NIS Cakes and More. All social media, just type NIS Cakes. As in NIS Cakes and More, and then you'll be able to find that.
Well, this is Ida Nilanda, the CEO of NIS Cakes. Is it NIS Cakes or NIS?
It's NIS. It's just my name. It's just the abbreviations of my name.
Right. Okay, so NIS Cakes and More. You can find them across all social media platforms. And tomorrow, they will be empowering some orphans by giving them skills, teaching them how to bake, sew, decorate, and all that. And do well to support them if you can. The numbers again, so that you don't forget. You can reach Ida or send them a donation on this number 0244 756 136. Thank you, Ida, for coming.
Thank you too. Thank you.
And I wish you the very best.
This way as well.
I hope you brought me cake.
A lot.
Great.
Don't worry.
Okay, so we'll talk about it later. It's time now for Citizens Microphone on the AM show. And Benjamin Akapu has been interacting with residents of Mamobi right here in Accra on a number of issues. Let's take a look.
But here we are. Where are we? It's actually the Mamobi market. And we find ourselves here. We're going to be interacting with some market women. We're also going to be interacting with some assemblymen and unit committee members to find out what their state of affairs is, how they feel currently in Ghana, what their expectations are in respect of some developments like the E-Levy, among others, and what they think basically about the leadership of John Dramani Mahama, among others. So here we are, and I'm going to start off the conversation from right here. Come with me. Pacho, morning. Oh. Pacho, you're frozen.
Mami
sewa na mitimu se woton carrots ene ni aka lemon lime nena se for no den bi na woton wa.
Oh, me wa bell peppers, me wa local mangoes, me wa fruit ni vegetables baby foreign ni local nyina.
We dey ya advert ama opa na mo ni ba ya ba ha no tiawa ye pese hu se wasitena mu tesen.
Oh, masitena mu ye. Nyaminti wasitena mu ye
den na ma wasitena mu ye te se ne ma wo ton aba from chese won so wo koto a ebo na ate aba from den tin aba na sa because ne ma ye nim se ne ma bebre ebo no ekosoro
sa me ko na ye te so a me ba na me so mate so nti for now ne dey atetete so timitumi ne dey ye ma me
na E-Levy no nso a ye free ho no a chese nanka o sendi mumu a ne atew kakra o sendi a ne atew kakra no ekwan parliament bedwafo omo assign ana omo ato aba say yenyin free ho aka ne a omampani ebe sign obetwere say ono nso waje atumu odwen ho say
oh E-Levy ne de emboa yen E-Levy na emboa yen chese wenya okakra wa e bia wo de send ama o baby no na ya teso ya beti we chese scan be du kura no na se na wo pese edu no na chese eso ati hum wa hu nti no E-Levy ne de emboa yen nti se ye ye fi wa me de to me ne de eye ma me pa ena minim se ebedu omo di dwa no nso asebe omo ti edwadi ase no eye omo de se ye ye fi wo na ye nyina ye ho atoyen
So very briefly, Mami Sewa sells carrots, lime, lemon, a host of fruits and vegetables. And she says, I asked her about her state of affairs currently, including how her business is doing. She says she's doing very well. She also says business is going well, it's booming, and that the prices of her carrots, for example, have reduced. And what she would sell a pack for about 40 cedis, now she's able to sell for 30 cedis. I told her that in some other instances, the prices of some other items have gone up as per the Ghana Statistical Service. But she says for this, the prices have gone down. And so because when she goes to the wholesale, she gets it at a lower price, she's also lowered her prices here. I also asked for her take on the E-Levy, and she said, well, it's good news. And it was some sort of a burden on them each time you have to transact. So for her, she is fully in support of taking away or scrapping the E-Levy, though technically as of now, it's not been scrapped. But let's go further into the Mamobi market to find out how other people feel about some of these developments. Come with me. So here we are, entering the market. I see this yam seller here. I'll come to her later. Mami. All right, so let's go inside. The yam seller was saying she was busy and that the work is hard, but we'll see whether we can engage her at some other point. Na obi aho ye de yo nkruma so ayeton ene nyadoa ene meko sister pacho what to say? Yo, yadanyamiase. Na no pay. I say what she dra. Then out on.
Pacho meton oil and dry fish.
Okay, inti zomi na say for no. O ana out on. O de na ya papa. Yen fa hwe frame me.
Pacho Debbie. Sudin nim bibia okay.
Okay, yo. Na also what on fish, what on oil, what on zomi. Ngone na say for. Sisi wasitne mute say yes aban enche December 7 and yokoto aba na wasitene mo sign ete ene.
Oh, se si ade bibia boko ye de rade ase. Jo mama ba bibia koyie.
Sa.
Na ko so fine. Se si awe E-Levy no. Ye de rade ase.
Ye nyi free ho ye enso ye beyi.
Ye beyi ye de rade ase. De we bibia asem ma o kan ni na. Wa ye bibia okay. Nti bibia da din.
Now because den pote na asesa wo nema wo ton ne sei no ebo no etesen ebo no gina bibia gina na anasa akosoro.
Oh, se si ade ebo no yate so.
Mo ate so.
Patwan.
Na wo kota yate so.
First oil no ne yeton 7 million. Se si aba 6.8, 6.7.
Ah, then na 7 million no gallon nana.
Gallon, yellow gallon no.
700 Ghana cedis.
Patwan.
Se si aba saying.
Aba 6.8.
Okay, it just 20 cities at so. As our 20 cities no what time saying na reflect it. I said saying na ultimate so.
Se si amate so first near to 60 Ghana. Se si aba 50 Ghana. First na votic near to 50 Ghana. 60 Ghana se si aba 50 Ghana.
Okay. Into just say what fan there nema ekoyi.
Bibia koyi, bibia dadin.
And E-Levy no so ye free ho into onya ya nka taxes ne levies ne bia aka no eno so omombo omode no munyi free ho
so omunyi ni nan free ho na yeso ye ho ntoye first ne de ne ye breast si ade omunyi bibia free ho na bibia se si footballers for no crampo no bibia koyie omko bo na no omu wini ye nti ye hu se bibia koyie
yo na
so omko bo na omu hye baako mienu no ma be fie se si ade na no omu share 5 na no so omu sa share 3 nti e de rade ase
nti ne ma koyi wo
bibia da di bibia yo okay aban papa no waba no
yo na mami bisa betting tax no so omu a chese omu kobo ye mfa ne se sebi yo chacha na eno so tax na ye free ho no we muslim senia echre no o dwen ho sen ebinom so say nka si ye ma wo ho senia emma omo to chacha no ombeto aso
acho guys ni bebre omu nye eduma no na omu dididi nti omu ye fi wo no omu so omu ho ato omu bebre ni eduma ye no na omu ye a omu so omu de solve omu problems nti se anyame adum jo mama ba e we ye fi wo oba be ye fi wo nti e de rade ase omu so omu ho ato omu nti ye bompa ye se onyi fi wo maye on sign parliament di o maye omu bibie wie ba se ye bompa ye se onu sign na enko ye ni na school nkola no so ye nkola ko school oso obema ye book free nti ye hia books me mba ko school be makam any 37 nti ye bompa ye se on hwe ma ye na oyi book on ma ye books because 37 don book de ne bo ye den nti so o mo hwe ma ye na o ma ye books a baby textbooks no e beti ye sika so ma ye kakra
na mpacho wo se udi ne ye den bi
mpacho ye frame enyunam
Enyonam, yo, medase se anope wona ya twetwe nkomo. All right, so Enyonam was just saying to me, she sells oil and dried fish here. And she says for her, things are good since the president took over. And I asked her what exactly made things good. She says, for example, if she goes to get some of her wares, the gallon she would have bought for 700 cedis is 600 plus cedis. She says 680 cedis to be specific. But that has translated into lower costs per bottle and others for the same product. I also asked her about the E-Levy, and she said it was a good thing that it was being scrapped. And finally, since she's Muslim especially, I was also asking her about the betting tax being taken away. And her take was that because some people do that for a living, according to her, it is good that they've taken off the betting tax so that at least they can earn something at the end of the day. She also said that the free textbook situation should be dealt with, especially referencing a specific school in 37, and that the books are expensive, and so if government can absorb some of that cost, that is, it will be good for them in terms of getting by. And those were the thoughts of Enyonam. Whom else can we speak to? Let me, is it Jamila? Okay. Now, Mr. Pacho, you're frozen. Oh, but I did. And I said also, or how beto bibi ma mbisa bibi kitwe bi me wo say wo share timo ya tro it is possible intino anopa we me sre bisa wasitena mo tesen
patwe kakra
kakra na ye fro say bio
me fe Mariama
wo say ye kakra ye koto aba enche ye bia sa na den na ema na ye kakra anase inchreche mo ne say
me da ma sutene munye me kuna me basu me kitankola mi
wo say wasitena mo ye ananye
enye
inti na wo wankasa na wo ye den
na me talia me juma minister semunye
sika semunye say uni ejuma sesia
me ma no mo ko school mo ofie 10 years and 6 years mo ofie
oh na say wonim say akola bia say nka education there
18 years so nso unansia nti me problem nti na me say yes enye no
we dey due na ne etwa to maybe say niema mo wo so wo beto niema oh okay na wo beto niema ebo na te say yeah we fa na sa enso betimi aye better na
oh
Mariama, Mariama also says she's not selling here. She has a relation who sells here, but she's here to buy, actually. And you can see boldly in her shirt, it is possible the message that the former vice president carried for the last campaign. But she's saying that life is not bad, but it's not exactly good either. She says she has children who have not been in school for about 10 years, 6 years thereabouts, and she has a deceased son among others, and so life is a bit hard, but she says she's getting by, and that's her situation. Let's interact with a few others, and then we shall have an interaction with. All right, so let me come here briefly, and then from there I'll go to the assemblymen and unit committee members. But your morning, your friend saying
your friend is Sweetie Spices.
Sweetie Spices.
Sweetie Spices.
It's a very sweet. Spices near sweet, huh?
A very, very sweet pan.
Yo, now say also just say who did you ha?
Patron, me did you mi nyamani.
Yo. Now, what's the name to say?
Oh, edanyamiasi. I sit in a BBI fine. BBI fine.
Hey, now sometime back, 3 months ago, 3.5 months ago, must say chroma days. They say then they see.
Chroma din there, but say your mama banu dear. Ya won't say BBI fine. BBI very smooth because the air penu na yenya. Nyama su boy din ya tutu nyama su, but say BBI performa my. Aba form say na yepe. Ebi amba form cry ya who changes kakra. Inti yada mahamasi. Pani de waya mai.
Teacher say uko dream uko major markets na uko tu niema uko tu a ebona beba tete so kakra aba form kakra aba form niema oton uko dream a den na ubetimi aka say oh we dey na nka meto ne say nso say aba form.
Oh, first the spices no MPP buy no na spices no across rupa, but this time the mama banu ukwa spices ne binum asisa aba form ebinum se omusu omuma ni mba form nansu se na spices ni ekọ suru no any the eba form na ye danyame asi because ye tumi tonyema ye tumi ko akotonyema pa sin first box mienu sika wo de beto baako na se si ade wo beto mienu kura ma ebiaka ye danyame asi.
It was a for Sweetie Spices.
Sweetie Spices.
Yo, yeah. That's say So Sweetie Spices also is saying this morning that for her, life is okay as a market woman. She sells spices, a host of other things. She says if she goes to market now, not everything, but the prices of some commodities have reduced, which would also translate into the cost that she at which she sells her wares to end users. So for her, things are going well, and she appreciates the current administration for what is being done. Well, having taken these views, let me also bring in some, should I call them politicians? Local leaders in these communities. And I guess, seniors, Intino say, What I'm going to do with them is find out what their take is as unit committee members, as assemblymen in these communities, how they think things are going. So here we go. We're going to have this interaction and find out what their take is on happenings in Ghana. I had wanted earlier to interact with Mommy the Yam Seller, but she says she's busy, so I will have to let's enquire you all. But me who say was John Mahama ni apron wa ha but say enquire you all.
Enquire ye won the no and that's where womb.
Okay, now you're frozen.
Your family sister time am market.
Okay, then out on
with on toast, jane tin tomatoes in nyoma. Ni e won no and that's where won sisai. Just
a dada na
anti woman sisai ma dey say ampa. Sisai aba.
It ko to ne ma na ne bo na sa.
Sister sisai the body.
Yeah, that's it. Yo, and for her, she is saying that though she's garbed in an apron with John Mahama on it, she's saying things are not going well. Prices have not shot up, but they've not come down either. And she feels much more should be done to ensure that they get to feel better. And of course, they can translate that to end users. Okay, so now with me, we have a host of unit committee members. Please join me here. This is also a taxi rank of sorts, so we are just perching here, so to speak. Senior, Pacha Frozen.
Ismail Husseini, Chinese.
Ismail Husseini.
Chinese. Yeah.
Chinese. Yeah. Just our nickname, no, Chinese.
Chinese,
yeah. No, not Chinese. Area being and all representing.
I'm your assemblyman, friend. Alidu electoral area.
Alidu electoral area. Now, baby, if we say now, you say nema echo. Just say ya sit nemu. Any nema baby ni echo. Ye hui.
Oh, ni edike better than you ase. Say wa ma yene. Ni to su mienu so. Yebema kremoni bia say the nyankopɔ say fasting no ya hyase efi day 1 ne ya bedu bia yedu yedi kwawie da nyankopɔ ase pa enu echi so da mampani John Dramani mama say emra na oye campaign no o hyebo say so ba o the holiday ba ko beka after your fasting no ye holiday na yo ba ko kwa mienu ye da na say we di bo hye no so ma bibia nso ai kama ntisia no kremoni bia ni je say Monday Tuesday holiday nti ono so yada na ase se na osibisa ya no am say oba ali lecture area bibia koso kama bibia koye bibia adwo am say nyama change nyama san ya mama bai bibia koso nti no eno so yebeda mama sada yebeda nyakopo sada mama say bibia nso yede koso kama eno echi so yebesa da omampeni mama say MP honorable Alhaji Yusuf Jaja yeto abayi no so mama so abampeni so ahye enunyam ama no deputy minister of tourism enjino bibia koso ye ko bibia ko ma ye
bibia ko ye ma na E-Levy nso ye free ho no eno nso wodwen ho say betting tax na asefo na ye free ho
am say E-Levy ni betting tax ni sa ne ma no mo ye free ni nyina no eko bo a omampeni share oba obe ye free we ye free njino ye twen say parliamentary approval na omampeni den se be share na ya tia ye free okra njino ye pa ye boa ye pa nti se wo kwa se nim sika bi akọ bebi a em se ntete bi anim nti ekoye pa eno achi so aseda kese pa ye omampeni assembly members me gina we assembly member free yi nse be assembly member ukọ assembly bosomuso a onya hwe obafie kwa okofie oba assembly ko communities but omampeni shebo so ba obehwe se busum bia at least assembly bia bibi kakra be kofie em se we dis abortion nso etino bibia ko ye kama
edini ya da isule
Ismaila
Husseini Chinese. So he represents the Alidu electoral area, and he's saying as far as he's concerned with the new president things are going smoothly. He commended the president for giving a deputy ministerial role to the constituency, the member of parliament for his constituency in which his electoral area falls, that is Yusuf Jaja. And he says he is glad that all of these are happening. He's happy that as assemblymen, allocations are being made for them in terms of some disbursements on a monthly level. And he says the quality of life is okay as far as he is concerned. Let me interact with someone else. Patrick Frozen.
Good morning. My name is Honorable Mohamed Ishao, popularly known as Honorable Kola, the elected assembly member for Kwachu electoral area.
All right, Honorable Ishao, right? Yes. Which electoral area again?
Kwachu electoral area.
All right.
Specifically Accra Newtown.
Accra Newtown. How is life for you today?
Oh, life for me today, at least we are thankful. Because even in the Bible, in the Quran, it has been said that whatever situation in life, you must give thanks to the Almighty. So we give thanks to the Almighty Allah since we are alive and kicking. But this morning, I would like to say a very good morning to the good people of Iowa North, to the good people of Ghana, and also happy Ramadan to all my Muslim colleagues. We pray for a successful Ramadan, and we thank the Almighty for bringing us this far. And we also like to say thank you to the people of Iowa North. At least we had a peaceful election. There is always the perception that we Zongo, we are always violent. So heading into the election, some of our electoral areas were seen as hotspot, but then at the end of everything, we had a successful election. So thank you to the people of Iowa North. Thank you. God bless us all.
How do you feel about assemblymen getting something on a stipend, if you like, on a monthly basis? And what challenges are you still seeing even under this current administration?
All right, first of all, we'd like to say thank you to the president because he was one of us. Him being one of us tells the more important role we play in decentralization. You know, with decentralization, we are the factor in it. So we say thank you to the president for at least honoring his promise, because this promise has been made previously, but he couldn't win power. So he winning this power, at least first thing that he did was he captured it into the budget. You know, everything that you want to do, you must capture it into the budget. So far as it is in the budget, we are hoping that at least when Parliament passes the budget from April going, every month at least we'll take something small, which at least is better than none. So we thank him for that. At least our job is very tedious. It's very tedious. So many times we need to use our own resources to do certain things. So at least when you get something small from the central government, you can channel that one to whatever that you are doing. So we'd like to use this opportunity to say thank you. This is not about politics, about MPP and this. It is about the aspect of assembly members. Our welfare is very important. We don't need to politicize this monthly allowance because no MP will sit down and criticize the common fund that they are receiving. MPP MPs, NDC MPs, they are receiving common fund, but none of them will come out to criticize it. So why, as an assembly member, you come out to criticize this monthly allowance? So we thank him for that. But then, as we always say, Oliver Twist always ask for more. So we are praying that at least moving forward, you should reconsider certain things in addition to it. But what we are also planning with them, that there should be a component for the elected assembly member. With that one, at least we can use it to manage our electoral areas effectively. So we thank him for that initiative. Thank you.
Thank you so much for those points that you've made. Pacho, Obeka Chi. No, I express who you are. No, Tim near minimum. Yo, Pacho, your friend, Honorable Kwesiche. Okay, Honorable Kwesiche. Now, electoral area by now or representing. Where assemblyman?
Me assemblyman. Estate electoral area.
Yo, I know I was
Kutubabi police station at the Bapek farm in a estate electoral area.
Nene Ephraim Ra John Dramani Mahama Abe was sitting at the same Bibi Assessor.
Yema bebre assessor. Media to a Juma Mayeno. E-Levy no if you and a boy me pa because a day scam saying any E-Levy scared to me a day no. But you say if you hold on my bed to my mama save kakra at least. So saving Ketwana no me to allied beam the support me light be crab boy me. Nti President Mama about buy no. No sense sign be aba. Ye na e market ye to anwa ye to emo ye to into cinema ko mu de me pesa me de be count because e ba na ekọ. But anwa ne sa na e ma na ye to mu say prices no a drop kakra. Nti wuti say better days ahead. Sa na e be count.
Nti wono den na aban no so betimi aka bibia trauma. Sania uni aka say Oliver Twist open more no den na efutu obi wo ho a obede mama aban na.
Efutu amu amede be ma aban ni say allowance no de man no de yesum ye danasi nyame nhira no but wanye fair to yen elected assemblymen no because appointed assemblymen no yen kan say omo no yen hyeda nimum pressure bi anko omo so yen ye elected no wo ho no bi honorable me ba yare nema bibiri ni ye nti say o de ma o ma yen ye elected any omo me appointed no ejipa at the end of the day pressure no eda yen elected no so
money na mo jepe
ye nyina ye jepe but ya say enti no also hwe because ye elected no pressure ni nyina ebe na ada so sisi America say nso e to 2 times got as be 3 achoku e o say me pe boys ni koku ni na is kasem obi e no be yedwuma na ma free as assemblyman unya ku yi nko ombeji omode elected so we are elected no ono emfa no ho whether got a choku and choku ejuma no kredu na friend kromba ati ase nti wa bomode ye danase mu but onhwe ho no so mai. Yeah, that's it. Here's another assemblyman, and I'll start from the last point he ended with. So he mentions that for them, they are very happy with what disbursements will come to them as assemblymen and women for the first time, but he is a bit distraught about the fact that both elected and appointed assembly executives or members will get the same amount, because for them, the elected ones, they bear the brunt of the work. He says generally life is good. The cost of living seems to have gone down a bit, and he is very happy with what is happening so far as the leadership of John Dramani Mahama is concerned. But he's asking for more to be done to aid them actually do better and deliver. I guess the final person I will speak to here, Alhaji Pasha Efeosen.
Efreme Alhaji Ibrahim Musa, aka Alhaji Willie P. Me a unit committee chairman, me assemblyman no.
Somebody now more nicknames. Who need nickname? Abana yato onya position be on.
Nicknames pa Alhaji Willie popular. I was born in this area. I was born here.
So from Chinese to as well. Alhaji Willie P.
Yeah.
Yo. Now, was it me person boni na tofa. Was it name what is saying?
Me boni easy. Fimu yasi agrobe there. Efri anopa.
Agrobe so efri anopa.
Agrobe so efri anopa. Yenka no kure. Usha last 8 years ago no. Yenka no kure hebre. Ba sena jo mama ba no. Enya se bibia ya okay o. There be enya okay. Ba oba se akofom kakra. Akofom. This me did 3 times a day.
Na nka no want me did 3 times a day.
Me sora na pa me did first no. Me sora na pa me did. Enya fasting way ya. Me sora na pa me did o. This me train up to 2 o'clock. Me did maybe eno no. Me dey no. But say there after fasting me was sure say bibia be kama. Bibia be kama.
Inti uwo bibia obetimi aka cha aban no anope a o person mo ye ewo impotem ha anase wa we electoral area bibia we unit committee member
adia me person ye mam ye hwe sa electricity no electricity meter no e too much
a contem dodo
a contem obo say the bill be ba obo say scan akosro e say ye hwe ho ma ye pa me assemblyman ye say wojina na mi kasa wo about say yeah light off yetina you bet me 11 o'clock 2 o'clock you bet say light off you bet sorry you ko anya say dum so underground cable mini assemblyman
underground cable dey na easy
I say underground ashi enti be ko jina up to 1 o'clock on ba be yaduma ni aso light no say onu there say we be say call next 4 years be because of light off way obanya vote bebre because oya there pa
So he also is saying that things are good. He's not saying that things are perfect, but he says compared to the last 8 years, things are relatively better. And he feels the only challenge he has is the power outages. But he says mostly it's not because ECG has turned the lights off, but sometimes there are some cuts, there's some damage to some of the underground cables, and that there are times where they are called at 11 p.m., 2 a.m., 1 a.m. to go and attend to these, and that is part of what they do in these communities. So that is basically it. Chinese. Wait here 10 seconds. Na E-Levy no why doing Chinese?
Because
Bono tofa mami.
Tofa yepa. Ya de nyame ase nyame hira no. Because E-Levy no higher papa. Say ya twe say aka 1 week ansa na jo mama we onye ntem no fa ni san to so.
So he's saying he's also in support of the E-Levy being scrapped, and that he's encouraging the president to speedily give assent to it so that it becomes law.
It delights watching Benjamin interact with folks outside on Citizen's microphone. And that's the end of the AM show this morning. But before we go, glorious happy birthday going out to Dr. Frank Odame, Medical Director, Medifem Multi-Specialist Hospital. God bless you richly and make your name great. And this is coming from Adobia Asare. And there's also another one. Oh, that's it. That's the birthday wishes we have for you this morning. But we're leaving you with Ghana Grows Changing Narratives, which is brought to you by MasterCard Foundation in collaboration with Springboard Roadshow Foundation. I'm Sweetie Abochi, and I did this with Benjamin Akapu. Thank you to NIS Cakes. Bye for now. AM Show is sponsored by Waylead Properties Limited. Bye.